Last night we had Sean Parnell on the show. He is a Republican running in, I believe it's PA 17. Is that, do you know that's a district?
If you say 17? So, Tim, I think so.
All right. So it's like north of Pittsburgh, and he's down. He's still officially a candidate. I don't think they've certified the election results yet, but he is on track to lose, and he's filing a lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of mail-in voting in Pennsylvania because their constitution already has an absentee ballot provision. And the Republicans were these are my words, not his. In terms of my opinion, he said that the Republicans were trying to pass this law and started the constitutional amendment process and then stopped, and then passed the law anyway, which means sounds like they knew what they were doing was unconstitutional. So apparently, Pennsylvania governor announced that he certified the results, and seems like it was done hastily in an effort to try and bypass any litigation or whatever. My understanding is that PA didn't certify in 2016 until December. So like they waited for a while. Now they've like rushed it through. I didn't even realize it happened. But a judge today said, stop the certification process. It's not official. And now you've got the Democrats being like, yeah, well, we still picked our electors. You can't stop us. And it's just going crazy. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but Trump is also filing an appeal trying to get Republicans in Pennsylvania to choose their own electors. He's certainly not giving up. They had this hearing where they were talking about voter fraud and stuff, which that hearing stuff they're doing makes me feel like they're not taking it seriously because it was at a hotel. But you know what? I don't want to get into too much. We also got some stuff about COVID. Maryland's going crazy. They're launching compliance units that are going to go around like tracking down people who are celebrating Thanksgiving. So
open up your door and let us in.
They're going to take like GoPros on swivels and like, raise up to the window and be like, there's people that, no, they're going to look for cars outside if there's too many. And this is for real.
They're all my cousins. They all live here.
Uh-huh. Yeah, everybody lives here. Get out of here. We're car collectors.
That's right.
But it's getting crazy. So anyway, Ian's sick. So his chair's empty.
Dun, dun, dun.
But Jack
the
Murphy's
foil's
here.
gone. Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Glad to be back. Lydia.
Yep.
Jim.
Chilling.
Jack.
I am chilling. I'm chilling in a big way.
Yep.
Jack Murphy Live here on Timcast.
I love it.
Yeah, so a lot of people are saying like, Tim, where are all your videos? You know what, man? It's chill day. Holidays are really, really hard to work through because no one else is working. So it's like you're trying to you're dragging your car by yourself with a tow rope. It's hard to do something when no one else is doing anything. It's like,
yeah, but Tim, your audience has to acknowledge that they feel an absence. But that absence is created through your persistence and consistent hard work. You're on the grind like nobody else, putting out more political commentary and news reporting than virtually anybody out there. Isn't that right?
I think so. I was talking to a podcasting network and they said I do more political commentary than anyone else anywhere. Now, there's probably some people, they're talking about in terms of the top podcasts.
Does it count when we're talking to Ian as political commentary?
I would
of course.
Yeah.
So we do. I
Ian.
do 3 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah, every day.
Except for Saturdays and Sundays, that's an hour and 45. So some days when we go over 10 o'clock, it's like 4 hours and 20 minutes. There are some days where I've done like 7 hours. For real. Like when we did when we had Vosh and Alex Jones, that was like 5 hours, 6 hours of political commentary in a single day.
Right.
Like that's crazy.
Right. But
or podcast commentary and content and stuff.
And you doing this consistently over time and delivering high quality. People are looking for you. They're waiting for you. And when they don't get that notification bell, which you should hit
me up
smash
on
that
Twitter.
like button. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell. You're gone. But guys, Tim's got to take a break. What you been doing? What are you going to do?
Well, it's so I'm actually thinking of doing only one 20-something minute segment for in the morning on Timcast News, and then my 4 p.m. segment on my main channel, so that we can start the vlog and do non-political commentary content, which means I'd still have 3 hours of political commentary every day. No joke.
Non-political commentary, evergreen commentary, fun stuff, educational stuff, inspirational stuff.
Silly nonsense. We're gonna build a giant airbag and launch ramp and like snowboard and stuff, and
fun.
maybe break the record for the longest grind rail ever grind done.
There you go.
Just something else. I think. It's too much in one direction. It's too much political commentary.
How much do you think your
45 minutes.
Your experience of having your content get sort of consumed by political commentary, is that like mirroring the rest of the world? You think it's everybody? Yeah,
like everyone's doing political commentary. Yeah, because I think this was a strategy of the Democrats. They wanted everything to be political because they needed non-voters to vote. They needed regular people who don't care to vote. How do you get some 23-year-old dude who's playing video games all day to vote for Joe Biden? you scream in their face and take everything away from them and scream in their face again. And finally, like, fine, Joe Biden, there you go. Well, leave me alone.
Right, exactly. We talked about that a few weeks ago about the Democrats beating their people over the head, gaslighting, torturing them, basically threatening them. And the only thing they could do is just vote to make it stop. But part of that comes from critical race theory and the activists that have like produced all these people, these young kids who've taken over corporations. They're taught that politics is personal. It's all personal, and you have to make it personal. And you have to even get in people's personal spaces and make people uncomfortable. And it's consumed everything. And then you take away. You can't go to the football games. You can't go to the basketball games. You can't go to you can't do anything. The only show in town is politics.
I think we may have crossed the breaking point, like the hard breaking point in this country. So I've talked, I frequently said, we're sitting on the precipice, or maybe we've gone over it. I think we hit the ground. I think we went over the precipice a while ago when we hit the ground. With this election, there was a hearing today at the Wyndham in Gettysburg. And you had a bunch of Republicans and they were listening to testimony. And man, you had some legit people there. There was one guy who was a former intelligence officer who worked psychological operations who was testifying. Trump called in. But you had a lot of people speaking. That whole thing, it's weird. It kind of freaks me out.
Well, can we just back up for a second, set the stage there? Like, how do you have a hearing in a hotel ballroom?
Because it's not official.
It's not official.
It makes me wonder, like...
So was anybody, like, under oath or sworn in?
I don't think so.
Or anything? So it was just... had the feeling of a hearing, but it was really just a sophisticated, or maybe, presentation.
I think what they're trying to do...
I don't know. I'm asking.
I think they're trying to... There's, like, a large, angry MAGA beast snarling. It's like, you know what it is? Here's a good example. It's like trying to calm down the Hulk. Like, don't worry, Hulk. Like, you're in the here's the real hearing. Come sit down. And you got all these angry MAGA people that are ready to smash. And so they're like, we're going to do a hearing. And then they show up and everyone's clapping and cheering. And it's like, bro, they're putting you in the kiddie room and blowing smoke up your ass.
Now, some people out there, well-known commentators on the right, they saw that hearing. And it really changed the way that they felt about, was there some sort of systemic fraud at play, at least in this state there? And
in terms of they don't believe it anymore? Or they believe it even more?
They believe that it's time for the Democrats to refute the allegations, that they're serious enough, they're credible enough, and that the people making the allegations are credible enough, that it demands a refutation, actually proving them to be false.
That's why I'm saying we went off the precipice a while ago and we smacked the ground.
The precipice of what? That's what I didn't understand.
Like the point of no return, where this country's divide was getting worse and worse every day. And jumping off the cliff was the point where you can't turn back. And then hitting the ground was the point where it's just done. And now we're staring at each other and people are counting heads. None of this, in my opinion, matters. We know there's evidence. The media is saying there's not evidence. It's just an absolute lie.
Did you see that poll? And I don't know who conducted it, so I'm not sure exactly if it's 100% accurate, but it seemed to suggest that they polled Biden voters after the election and asked them, were they aware of Hunter Biden? Were they aware of Operation Warp Speed? Were they aware of our energy independence under Trump, et cetera, et cetera? And they weren't.
And they said if they were, they would have voted for Trump. A large enough percentage, but it was a small percentage. It was like typically around 4 to 5% of the people said, wow, I wouldn't have voted for Biden if that was the case. And that's a huge swing for Trump.
It would have been sufficient, perhaps.
The media was doing everything in their power to help Joe Biden. Social media was doing everything in its power to help Joe Biden. Joe Biden did not campaign and got 11 million more votes than Barack Obama.
No way.
Doesn't make any sense, Tim.
So listen, you come to me and you say, dude, but people really hate Donald Trump. I say, oh, you betcha. But to beat Barack Obama without campaigning? Now, perhaps you can say...
I mean, hold on. Just Barack Obama. I went out to vote for Barack Obama, man. I was motivated.
Yep.
I waited in line. I was proud to vote for Barack Obama. I really was. In 2008, I certainly was. Come to regret it, obviously.
Yeah, me too.
But it was a moment in time. It felt right. And like, there was no similar energy around Joe Biden. But maybe this does prove once and for all, hopefully not, that hate is more motivating than love or hope.
I'm not entirely convinced that widespread voter fraud is what cost Trump the election. I think we got to see evidence. I think what we have right now is the smoke alarm is going off and smoke is billowing out the windows. It's time for the firefighters to go in there because we think there's smoke. So, for me, I've seen enough. The investigations need to happen. But here's the point I'm saying where we smack the ground.
Yeah.
It's not going to matter. Especially when you have these hearings. Now, it's silly that they're happening in like a Wyndham or whatever. That's like, what are they doing? They're going to do it in a couple other states, I guess. But some of these people, man, these are. When I was listening to the certification process for Michigan, some of the people who called in for public, like to say, do not certify, these were like former government officials.
Yeah.
These were like, like relatively high-ranked individuals in various organizations and government who have said, rattling off all the evidence, calling out the law, and they said, F you. Man, that one guy, his name was like Aaron Van Langeveld, was one of the most feckless and pathetic people I've ever had to listen to. It's like you had a guy say, like, under this section of the law, it says, for any reason necessary, you can call an adjournment. Like, you can adjourn the meeting. And he goes, well, I can't just make something up. And they're like, if you can't certify, which is defined as determining if something is true, then you can call for an adjournment until they sort out these errors. And he goes, oh, I just don't think that's in the law anywhere. Sorry. And it was like, he said it like 10 times. And I'm like, dude, it was so obvious that he was doing everything in his power to guarantee this for Joe Biden. And you had people, like one guy called in and rattled off a ton of crazy evidence, affidavits, sworn statements, statistical anomalies, the things people had seen. And the unbalanced books, for instance, 70 whatever percent, signatures didn't match to how many votes were cast. People who had said that they didn't request absentee ballots, but absentee ballots got sent to them anyway. Things like that.
Indeed.
And this guy goes, well, I don't know. I guess, whatever. I have no choice, sorry. It's like you wouldn't exist unless you had a choice. Like, why would you even be in that position?
Right.
You're there for a reason, to certify. Or you can say, I can't certify this because the books are unbalanced.
One explanation for that is that he was trying to advance the ball for Biden. Another explanation is that he was so soft and scared and incapable of making a principled decision or making a hard decision or taking action or anything like that.
I don't think he was trying to advance it for Biden.
Yeah.
I think he's just scared. He's a terrified, weak little man.
This is the crisis of weak men.
Yep.
So when you hear that the Wayne County Board of Canvassers, some guy goes on the Zoom call and says, your kids probably go to this school, and they immediately certify. Yeah, exactly. So this guy who is, should not be in a leadership position, he sees that and he immediately says, I have to, I have no choice. And the reason he was saying that was because he doesn't want Republicans getting mad at him. But guess what? Time and time again, I'll tell you this. It's because Republicans will do nothing. Conservatives, nothing.
You mean in terms of like fighting aggressively or?
So Antifa breaks the rules and gets away with it.
Yep.
100%. And the only thing comparable is probably the Proud Boys. And they typically are defensive. They'll show up and do a rally and then Antifa attacks them and then they'll fight back. But Antifa is aggressive and they get away with it. It's overt terrorism. It's low tier terror. It's not like they're showing up with, AKs and mowing down, kids or anything like that. But they're saying
just picking off Trump supporters one by one on the streets of Portland.
It has happened. But here's the thing that you want to stay under the radar. You can't do high profile attacks like that, like Reinhold did. So what you do is you just put on a mask and you club people. And then eventually people get scared. But cancel culture was the first start. That was them saying comply or else. We will destroy you. And I'll tell you one of the biggest problems. I would say it would seem that there's probably 4 or 5% of Trump supporters who are cowards. They're smart enough to know they need to vote for him, but they were too terrified of what the left would do to him to speak out and evangelize on his behalf. So I said this about all these celebrities who I know support Trump but refuse to speak up because they're like, oh, lose my job. And I'm like, you will wake up one day with a Joe Biden presidency and everything you hold dear being stripped away, and you'll say, I wish I had spoken up sooner because I had a lot of influence and I could have used it.
Bro, you are preaching to the choir on this one, my friend. I have arrows in my back from being out front. People have been free riding on my willingness to go out there personally and stump for Trump and advocate for him and say he's the best choice that we had as far back as 2016. Obviously, Democrats are deplorable, the whole transition, everything.
They destroyed your career.
They did.
Tried hurting your family.
They did. They hurt me. They got me fired and doxxed and slandered and all kinds of horrible things. And yet, I persist and I look around at people who I know feel the same way but don't speak up, and I'm like, I'm out here. I'm a lightning rod.
I'll say this from now on. If anyone whenever I'm ever going to bring up not being scared and speaking up, I'm just going to say, be like Jack Murphy, because people always say, Tim, you don't have a family, you don't know what it's like. It's like, all right, well then ask Jack. Because you stuck your neck out. You were speaking out. They came for your family, and you pushed twice as hard after the fact.
Indeed.
You weaponized it.
I had to. This energy came at me. It was negative energy. It was this terrorism, info terror, like character assassination, etc. And they came after me, and I jujitsu'd around into something positive. There was, it was an opportunity. I mean, when you see the world in terms of opportunity and energy, and you see it all coming at you, and you have a chance to turn it around into something good, I seized on it. And plus, living well is the best revenge. There's no question about that.
So think about this guy, this Michigan state on the state board of canvassers.
Yeah.
Who was, no matter what was said to him, citing the law, citing evidence, he said, well, I have no choice. One guy said, if that's the case, then why are you here and not a rubber stamp for the governor? We can hand the files to him. You exist for a reason. In fact, they had the opportunity to vote. Like, they literally counted the vote 3-0 with one abstaining. It's like, so you could have literally voted no. But this guy wouldn't. And it's really simple why. I've been saying this for quite some time. So you're familiar with Sargon of Akkad, right?
Indeed. I saw that whole thing just happen recently.
Go
ahead.
No, I don't know. What happened? Something happened?
Maybe I have it mixed up.
Well, anyway, he's got a new podcast called The Lotus Eaters, by the way. So shout out Sargon. But I use him as a really good example because he is like the most mild-mannered, offensive guy, that like the social media age has wrought. And here's the example. If Twitter started banning a bunch of people and a bunch of crazy stuff happened, do you think Sargon of Akkad is going to lead a group of liberalists, men, with fedoras and beards, down to Twitter HQ with pitchforks and torches to smash and destroy everything? No, of course not. No. He's sitting in his nice little fancy room with his British accent, giving arguments. If they started going after the left, do you think the left would show up with pitchforks, torches, and bricks?
No, but I do have a
No, the answer is yes.
I'm sorry. Yes.
They've done it.
Absolutely.
They literally have done it.
I'm sorry. I had a counterpoint in my head to be an argumentative jerk about it. Laura Loomer, she did show up down at Twitter.
Yes,
not exactly pitchfork.
But is anybody scared of her?
No.
She handcuffed her hand to the door.
Yeah.
And she got pressed for it. Yeah. It's probably, honestly, she is one of the best activists, or the best the right has.
Yeah.
And you don't got to agree with her. I think she said ridiculously bombastic things and offensive things, and you don't got to agree. The point I'm making is she always knows how to dominate headlines.
Yeah.
And she does it in such a way that's like nobody's getting hurt, handcuffing herself to Twitter's door. Like, that's just regular old civil disobedience, and it worked.
Yeah.
So here's what happens. This guy, Aaron, he's, a sad, scared little man who, he shouldn't be in a leadership position if you can't handle the heat. It's the sword of Damocles. You want to sit in that chair, the sword sits above you.
How do you even get to that spot? Is it just some appointment? Has he voted in like some weird thing?
The problem is we don't have leaders anymore. Yes. We have very, very few, I should say. And so what happens is, here's a guy sitting there, and he sees what happens. When the Democrat state board, when the two Democrats said, we are going to certify, did Republicans announce where their children lived and threaten them?
So where are you?
Well, the answer is no.
No, I know. Where are you going with this critique?
That the left is violent, terroristic, like Antifa types. These aren't even these are like regular Democrats in the community saying, your kids go to school here.
Yeah, no, it's a perfectly normal thing on the left to say all kinds of stuff like that.
And they know that when they say that, Antifa is the cudgel who will show up and act, and they'll say it's what is it called, stochastic terrorism?
Yeah.
They know that they can say, don't your kids go to this school? And then they'll say, now all I have to do is sit back and wait for Antifa to show up, because they'll do it. I don't got to tell them. So this guy's terrified. He's absolutely terrified. The other guy abstained. He didn't even say no. These people are spineless. So you have aggressive, angry, violent, deceitful leftists, and you have scared conservatives saying, just please leave me alone.
Right. And I agree with you. The ineffective, wimpy guys like that, or leaders of any kind, shouldn't be there. And we need stronger leaders. We need masculine energy. We need all kinds of new force. However, I just want to make sure I understand this. The left does play dirty. Are you suggesting the right should play strong or play dirty too?
They got to be smarter. They got to be smarter. So look, I've grown up playing strategy games, and what the left is doing is aggro. Their strategy is hard and fast. Strike them, hit them low, hit them fast, get it done. The Republicans got to play control better. They have to understand, exactly what they're going to do. They're going to make threats. They're going to come for your family. You need to know their move before they do it. And so that, like, Bruce Lee, move like water. When they come at you, spin around, flip it on them. Turn the energy back on them. You did.
Yes.
It's exactly what you did.
Yes.
They came at you and they made you 10 times stronger, 100 times stronger.
Yes.
That was a mistake.
And counting.
That's what more people on the right need to be doing. So it's not about playing dirty. It's about, I'm reminded of this episode of Frasier. You ever watch Frasier?
I sure did. I watched Cheers and then Frasier.
All right. So there's an episode where I guess Frasier is having a bad day, and he has his normal table at the coffee shop, and he's got his coffee sit down. He goes up to grab some creamer or something, and a guy sits in his chair, and he gets angry and he says, "Sir, this is my seat," and the guy tells him to F off. So Frasier just says, "I'm having a bad day. I'm not having it." Picks the guy up and throws him. So eventually, this guy sues him, knowing he's like a radio host, he got money, and Frasier can't do anything about it. So eventually, they end up meeting back at the coffee shop, and then Niles gets in his face, and then starts pressuring him and insulting him, and then the guy says, "Back off, man," and pokes his chest, and then Niles goes, "Whoa," and falls over and slams onto the floor, and then he goes, "Countersuit, countersuit," and then the guy backs off and says, "Okay, I give up." Mm-hmm. The joke was, and he was like, "I didn't do anything to him." He's like, "Well, we all watched you touch him. That's it. You're going to get sued." Niles got the suit shut down by playing the same game the other guy was playing.
Got it.
So I'm not saying, definitely not. Republicans should not be going out doing Antifa stuff. Antifa shouldn't be doing that either.
Right.
But what do you do if the DA will cut these people loose? Boom, like that. Because they got elected in the first place.
Well, they have a whole infrastructure. You and I talked about this many times, and I take extra special pleasure now in documenting legal defense fund folks.
Oh, yeah.
When they're out there in the protests, copying down the officers' badge numbers and giving out bail numbers and helping people get out of jail. And as you said, not being there to observe both parties, but actually there as an advocate for Antifa.
Yep.
They have a whole network that encourages them. They get out of jail. They're not prosecuted. It's a whole system. We don't have that system because we adhere to the system of the rule of law, and we expect that if you destroy property or federal property, you're going to go away to federal prison.
So what do you do if you're playing Monopoly?
Yeah.
And the person across the table, every so often you see him swipe 100 from the bank, and you go, "Dude, I saw you do that," and you'd be like, "What are you talking about?" "No, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm allowed. I'm the banker." Eventually, do you stop playing?
I mean, you're putting me in a tough spot, Tim, because I'm the kind of guy that would either confront or just completely ignore.
Flip the table.
Well, I like to pick my moments of aggression like that, and sometimes it's just not worth it. But the alternative here of just like getting up and walking away from the board game, that's easy. I can do that. I can be like, "Dude, I don't want to hang out with you anymore. I'm not going to play this game anymore.
Cheating.
I'm
Yeah.
out," and then just leave. We do not have that luxury.
No, that's that exists in the real world, and that's the scary. That's the hitting the ground moment. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're at a point where we've seen the evidence. There is so much evidence of, first, irregularity. Because fraud, we got to figure out who did it and is it definitive. So following Matt Brainerd of the Voter Integrity Fund, he recently put out a database, like screenshots of Excel of people all using the same commercial address as their residential address.
Some of them even post offices.
Yeah. So the response to that was that they were using their mailing address as their residential address. So that could be a mistake, right? Mm-hmm. But some of these addresses were just like, one of them I think was like a shopping mall or something. Like, okay. And the difference is they say apartment on them. Mm-hmm. So if you're gonna use the same address and then call it apartment number to make it seem like it's a real residence, that's fraud. That's evidence of fraud outright.
One of the things that he pointed out that struck me was that in, I think, Wisconsin, I believe, there is a particular clause that says if you are indefinitely confined, you can get an absentee ballot and not have to show ID. And it's like some X amount.
169,000 people indefinitely confined.
Right. In previous years, it had been some tiny fraction of that.
In 2018, I think it was like 16,000.
And he specifically noted that Corona was not an indefinite confinement. So that's one area where you don't need to use an ID. So, of course, that's a perfect vector for cheating.
That is the best evidence so far of fraud, in my opinion, was that people put bunk addresses. If you take an address for a Dairy Queen and then put apartment number on it, yeah, we know what you're doing. That's fraudulent.
Some of them were even the post office.
Well, but the argument there is that
What, you have like a PO box?
Yeah. So their mailing address was incorrectly listed as their residential address.
I see.
See,
I see.
I'm not saying it's definitively true. That's what happened,
does make
but
sense.
you can explain it away.
Right.
You can't explain away someone listing a shopping mall as their residence.
Right.
Like, and was like 1,000 of them, all with the same address going down, with unit number, apartment number, just like different ways to qualify. Like, this is actually, it's not a residence. So there clearly is evidence of fraud. Now, it's not definitive proof. It could be very simple. At this one shopping mall, somebody has a mailbox or something like that. And then again, confuse their mailing address. Someone pointed out that you actually, like in some instances, you can put your mailing address as your residence on some form or something and maybe got mixed up. But you can explain it.
Yeah.
But the point is, we have all of this evidence. And going back to the hitting the ground moment, the fact that Republicans held a hearing at a Wyndham means the split has happened.
Right.
Why aren't they having that meeting in an official government building?
Right.
Because they're now operating parallel to the government.
Don't say it, Tim.
Why not?
The
It's true.
beginning of the shadow.
Well, CNN ran a segment where this deranged guy said Trump's going to form a shadow government. I wouldn't call it a shadow government, but I wouldn't be surprised if Trump says, if you support me and you believe me to be your president, I will be leading a movement. He could.
Yeah.
And it could operate within the confines of the law, but it could have powerful and massive impacts across the country.
People have accused Obama of running a shadow government,
Yep.
shadow presidency this whole time, living but merely a mile away from the White House in
Yep.
Colorado in Washington, D.C., near Bezos. Bezos, who bought a museum, dude.
Wow.
He bought a museum and turned it into his private residence in downtown Washington.
If we have to have hearings at Wyndham hotels because we can't have them in actual legal buildings with legitimate legal proceedings, then it shows you that people are no longer confident in one unified system. The government exists based on one thing, confidence. That people think in their minds the machine exists and the machine will churn along. You start to realize then when you see a judge in PA issue ridiculous rulings, or you start to hear the state canvass guy in Michigan repeatedly just say, I can't do it, even though we got the law in front of him saying he literally can. And it's like, dude, you're lying. Why are you like, you literally can. The guy read you the law 3 times, desperately trying to say, I can't, shows you the laws become meaningless. For the past year, we have seen Antifa get away with smashing things up and destroying things and burning things.
Felony
Black Lives Matter rioters.
arson, felony assault, assault with a deadly weapon, murder.
And so
Let's not sugarcoat it.
Well, but the people, the most violent people, did get arrested and get charged.
In
stuff.
that regard, yeah.
But we had thousands of people across the country who were arrested and released immediately. Many hundreds in Chicago, hundreds in New York and Dallas-Fort Worth, who had their charges dropped, misdemeanor charges. So then what's the point of the law if these people can go out and smash things and get away with it? What's the point of the law if Antifa can literally organize terroristic events on Twitter with no repercussion? And they've been doing it nonstop for a year. At a certain point, Republicans got to say the law doesn't actually mean anything because it doesn't get enforced. Then they're going to show up to a Wyndham hotel to have their hearing on voter fraud because they're rallying among themselves saying, we know this is true. And it doesn't matter if the official building or the Democrats think it is or isn't. So at a certain point, there's not necessarily a shadow government, but I've been saying this for quite some time with the censorship. They are pushing to create parallel economies by stripping people away of their financial institutions and communications. So now we have parallel social media growing faster than ever. Parler, over 10 million users now. You have, like I mentioned, hearing in a hotel. Like an official proceeding, it looked like it was a Senate hearing, but they were doing it in a hotel, which is crazy. And you have CNN worried about Trump forming a shadow government. But there are people who say legitimately Trump won and we know it. And they're not. You had Rhodes of the Oath Keepers say that he believes Trump supporters, half the country, will not regard anything out of anything out of Biden's mouth as legitimate. So it's like the fracture has happened.
Yeah.
We smack the ground, boom, it's done.
Yeah, these parallel circumstances, economies, information markets, networks, associations, these are all happening. This is all part of the trend of decentralization and strategic disconnection. Instead of us all being in the same thing with no borders and no boundaries and totally connected to everyone everywhere at all times, we are going to start retreating. Some of it's deliberate in an offensive way from the other side to silence us or separate us from the mainstream or whatever the case. But some of it is coming from our side too. Some of it is just a natural phenomenon at this point where you want to erect a barrier. You want to have a wall between yourself and the people you care about and the people that you don't know and that you don't have the same level of care for, people who might have it out for you. And eventually we're going to have not just parallel financial systems or economies or labor markets, but decentralized, and it's just sort of all in a big mix, but they're all connected in their own unique ways. And it really is the future of work. It's the future of communication, of finance, where people are going to come together and build their own networks where they can live, work, and play. And this is not, this is sort of a longer term vision here.
Yeah, but that's going to lead to widespread violence. If we're talking about Trump supporters,
well, I was talking about a little bit of different thing than you're talking about, but I hear what you're saying. Go ahead.
If Republicans and Trump supporters right now no longer have confidence in the elections, in the government, in the system, and they're going to start doing their own thing, and they probably will. So like one of the things I said a month or two ago when someone asked me, like, what do you think it's going to look like if we do see some kind of civil war? I said, it's going to be a bunch of right-wing dudes in the middle of nowhere just basically saying we no longer care about what the law is. Like if they pass a law on gun control saying turn in your guns, they're going to be like,
yeah,
who are you talking to?
Yeah, forget it.
Yeah.
And we saw seeds of that starting in the spring, in the winter, in January in Richmond, in Virginia, when the governor and the legislature there were looking to pass very restrictive gun laws. Many counties said that they wouldn't enforce the laws, and they were joining together in resistance. And
there was just a huge protest where a bunch of armed dudes were walking around. I'm not sure if it was Virginia or D.C. I think it was D.C.
Couldn't have been D.C.
No, that was the point. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Ford Fisher was covering it. I think it was D.C. I could be wrong, but he was basically like, these guys are violating in large numbers gun control laws. We'll see what happens.
Oh. I didn't hear about that. I'm going to have to look that up. If there's a gang of armed dudes
look
walking through the streets of D.C., all felony possession, boom.
Yep.
I can't believe that they didn't get scooped up.
It may have been Virginia.
Yeah, that would
It may have been in
make more sense to me.
in a
Said
part of
Ford
Virginia.
reported it?
Yeah, Ford was reporting it,
Okay, let me look
but it was a while ago. It was
Oh,
like
was
a week or two ago.
Okay.
So I don't know. Just see if you can Google it.
It's going to be opt-out. Think it's already happening. Think about if you are a Democrat in Montgomery County, Maryland, and you don't believe that we should have restrictive immigration, and your county says basically, hey, if you show up here, we'll give you services, we'll take care of you, you get a driver's license, and if we arrest you, even for a violent crime, we won't engage with the federal immigration authorities, whatever. So
They started this a long time ago.
people have been ignoring the government, I think, since and even before it was incepted. So that was one thing I wanted to do. I wanted to step back a second and just be like, look, you remember 2016, all those Democrats were like, you should engage electoral college and change the vote and whatever. And they're saying that, it's
Also, there's a video of a bunch of celebrities saying you will be a hero, electoral college, if you vote your conscience and do not elect Donald Trump.
right.
Amazing. What are they saying today?
Well, and they're saying the exact opposite. And
Yeah.
if you suggest that, you're a terrorist and a rebel and whatever. But my point in bringing that up is how much of these feelings that we're having, the sense of disintegration or I won't respect him, not my president and all that, or like ignoring federal laws, how much of that is really new? That's what I want to know. Sanctuary cities have been a thing for a long time. Civil disobedience has been a thing for a long time. Ignoring federal guidelines and laws and regulations has been a thing for a long time.
State Republicans having hearings in Wyndham hotels, like
this is pretty good example. Decriminalization and legalization of cannabis on a state level, even though it's federally prohibited. That's a great example of states ignoring the federal government, disregarding the law and saying, screw you, we're going to do what we want.
That's different, though.
Why? I think it's the same thing.
When a state says we are a sovereign state, and we've decided, there was a big wave of states declaring sovereignty, I think it was like 12 years ago or so. That's the states always have their own laws and and they can. There's a lot of laws that don't work with federal laws. It's different when you have two overarching cultures with 70 plus million on each side. For the most part, not every single person who voted for Biden or against Trump or for Trump are super politically active. There's probably a lot of people who are just like Democrat and Republican. And
well, let me just say thematically, then it's the same. In that disregarding the authority of the federal government, deciding to do what you think is right and not accepting it as legitimate, what's coming from Washington, D.C. That's on theme. Those roads have already been traveled. Will we see more of that? Probably.
I don't think so. I think sanctuary laws are like a legal challenge where the people in the state, like, they agree and they vote for something. and then the feds challenge them, and there's a lawsuit, and then the feds ultimately back off.
Right.
And then that's it. You don't get cooperation. It's different when you have in the state, in the same areas, two different factions of people completely at odds with each other, doing different things as though there's a different government or a different system for ranges of grievances.
So would you take the Monopoly board and just flip it over and fling everything everywhere and say we got to start over and get a whole new game? Or are you going to get up and walk away? Or are you going to punch the guy in the face? What are you going to do, Tim?
Man, walk away. But therein lies the serious problem of what does it mean to walk away in this analogy. I got a house out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm doing my own thing, and the lockdowns are getting, we're well beyond the point of these dystopian novels. Right. Maryland announced they're launching compliance units that are going to patrol Thanksgiving looking for cars that could indicate someone's having family over. Compliance units.
I mean, that's as absurd as I saw a joke about like banning turkeys over 12 pounds or something like that.
Yeah, it was Newsom, like no 10-pound turkeys.
No, that was a joke.
Oh, that was a joke?
Just a joke.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it was a joke.
Oh, I don't know. Somebody brought it up. But did you see the thing they said about no loud music?
No.
What does that have to do with COVID?
Well, not to be the party pooper on that one, but loud music does induce people to speak more loudly and enunciate more clearly.
All right.
Which is why I really they're not not allowed to
get it.
You're not allowed to play music at restaurants, and I was like, what is that about? And they're like,
Yeah, 'cause you
the
have to
volume
yell.
has to be low so that you don't yell, so you don't spit all over everybody.
I kind of get it.
Which actually is one of the ones that only ones that really make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
They also said no alcohol. So that's fun. I'm
Yeah.
sure everyone will follow that rule.
Definitely.
Definitely,
But
for
I'm
sure.
seeing some pushback, man. I'm seeing some pushback. I've seen in my local jurisdictions parents getting together and agreeing that their kids should be playing little league, that their kids should be playing baseball, they should be doing crew, they should be playing tennis, that they should have group practices, and they should try to find events. Like people are tired. They're understanding the damage that's being done to them and their kids and their development and their social development.
That's kind of interesting to me because I looked up the word feckless because I didn't really know what it meant. And the root word of feckless is irresponsibility. And I think that parents who are looking for ways to get their kids out of lockdown sadness are being responsible.
I agree
People are
with that.
looking for ways to make positive change are being responsible.
I
So
agree.
people like this guy who didn't certify are irresponsible. What do you
Indeed.
think?
I have the tweet from Ford Fisher.
Oh, snap.
He says, today, Boogaloo boy Mike Dunn led militia activists on an armed march in laps around the Capitol in Richmond, Virginia, where it's illegal to carry guns at protests. And it's illegal to carry 20 plus round mags. Police stood back and did not intervene as the group defied both laws.
Wow.
This is a large group of people, and they're
the 21st?
carrying lots of weapons
Yeah.
in violation of the law. And it's Richmond, Virginia. It's not D.C.
Right.
He says, he's got another follow-up. He says, police monitored the area, many carrying long rifles themselves, but did not intervene as the Boogaloo boys marched by them, as well as signs reading firearms prohibited beyond this point. Other than pleasantries like good morning, police didn't really speak to them. In fact, in the beginning of his video, you can see a sign that says notice, and there's a picture of a handgun in a red circle with a line through it. So there have been protests before. There's been widespread civil disobedience before. But has that been combined with widespread factional violence and 70 plus million people believing the election, or I should say, to be fair, based on the polling we've seen, it's around 80% of Trump's voters in various polls, 80%, more than one poll said this, do not believe the election was free and fair. So we're looking at something like 65 million people or so, 66 million people who think that the election was rigged.
How many Americans do you think have ever seen a baseball game where they knew the other side was cheating and they just thought to themselves sort of like, well, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Yep.
That's a saying. That's a thing.
Yep.
Americans, they fight hard.
Yeah.
So how much is there a chance that if they go through all of the legal process and everything is exhausted, at the end of the day, whatever the final arbitration is, it's like for Biden, you don't think some of that 80% is just going to be like, well, we'll get them next time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
It's
very,
the
very likely.
fecklessness. So that's
It's conservatives. It's conservatives saying, well, they're cheating and we know they're cheating, but whatever.
So I'm trying to combine the fecklessness you're describing with this anticipatory conflict that you're thinking about, that we've gone off the precipice and we're shattered?
I'm not saying that whatever's happening is going to in the immediate result in, marching armies or anything like that, or the Republicans arming up and saying, no confidence in the government or whatever. I'm saying they literally are already having public hearings outside of government. Whatever that means, I don't know, but they're doing it.
Yeah. And it wasn't like they said, this is the official off-site location, like when they moved the White House, to the other buildings. I wish I could remember the name of that octagon.
Mar-a-Lago, Winter White House.
No, I'm talking about in like 1800s, man. But just a temporary location. They didn't announce anything like it. It was just really just a dog and pony show where people with credible people came and gave their testimony, but not even testimony. They're just sort of.
So that's the other thing I was saying early on, that perhaps what they were doing is just trying to calm down the Hulk. They were like, we need to make sure that Republicans grumble and go home and do nothing. So we're going to give them their hearing. You're not giving them a hearing in an actual building, are you? Fine, we'll do it at the Wyndham, I guess. Then they'll feel like we actually listened to them. The Republicans are, like right now, in my opinion, in Pennsylvania, look at this. They're the ones who passed Act 77. Which created the universal, the no excuse mail-in voting system, which, according to the lawsuit, that's actually gotten, that's gotten the certification frozen, unconstitutional. It was Republicans who passed that. Now in Pennsylvania, the Republicans are holding these it reminds me of that joke where they said both the left and the right have said this about Biden or Trump: make a fake White House, put candidate in it, and then film a reality show where they think they're president. So they're like, let's set up a hearing. We'll do it at a hotel. It won't be official, but we'll convince the Republicans we're actually looking out for them. And
I don't know Pennsylvania politics so well, but were the people, those Republicans, were they the old line establishment types, the neocon types? Were they, or not MAGA, obviously? I just wonder how that went down. But you've mentioned a few times a challenge that you think has some legs, right? The unequal treatment of the ballots and the voting process and the cure periods and things like that.
So this is the crazy thing. The judges in PA are basically saying, burn the whole thing down. We don't care. And it's almost like the rulings they're giving are them looking you in the eyes and saying, no, it's totally fair what we're doing. And then you're like, what? Like, these rulings are just like, I can't remember the specific case that I said the other day. You have to watch the other episode, but it's basically like, we've deemed that this lawsuit is true and correct, and this is unconstitutional, but we're going to allow it, and then we'll call on the legislature in the future to do something about it. So it's like you know that it was bunk and something was bad, and you're going to let it stand. So what happens when the judge said? He said to Giuliani, what do you expect me to do? Disenfranchise, 7 million voters or whatever. And Giuliani, I guess he was like, we don't know where these votes came from. In this case, the judges had two choices. If they agreed with Giuliani and said these 700,000 votes are hereby being disqualified at the fault of the Pennsylvania government for violating the election code. Oh, now I remember exactly what they said. You're going to love this. The judge said, the election code states there must be observers witnessing the observers present to observe the ballot counting process, but it doesn't state a distance. Therefore, as long as they're in the building, it's up to code. No sane, rational person looked at the code and said, that's the point of the law. We know why the law was passed as it was, because you want someone to observe the actual ballot. The judge said, it doesn't say what distance, 100 feet back. So when they sued saying we couldn't witness what was going on, the judge said, you were in the building, right? Good enough. That's the election code. That is them laughing in your face when you know what the point of the law was and using a technicality. Sorry, it's true and fair.
Technically correct.
And then laughing and high-fiving their friends.
I wonder if there's ever been a circumstance in which on the right, people were, pushing the pedal to the floor in this regard. I imagine there has to have been all throughout history.
War. George W. Bush, Iraq, Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Them being like, there's weapons, trust us, don't look behind the curtain. Mm-hmm. And then the media lied and defended them. So look, with the Democrats right now, you get the media lying and defending them. And guess who the media lied and defended in 2003? George W. Bush and the Republicans.
Right.
So it's the game is the political establishment is a well-oiled machine. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. Do you actually think these people would allow the rabble to dictate the course of human events? Absolutely not.
Right. Donald Trump being the rabble and the rabble rouser.
Yep.
And the leader of the rabble and the one that we launched into D.C. to do the things that he did, some of them at least.
I mentioned this before, but I
Some.
remember being outside that building after Trump got elected, and he comes in the SUV, and he's having a meeting with the old guard Republicans, and the rumor was he basically told them to go F themselves. He was the president, going to do whatever he wants. And I'm sure the meeting went something like, now that you're president, here's the plan we have in place for what we want you to do. And he said, no, I'm the president. We're going to get America back on track. And they were like, trust us. This is the plan. He said, no. They went nuts. The Never Trumpers erupted. A bunch of Republicans retired. It was basically a president who says, here's what the people want. I don't care what you want. And then the intelligence agencies and the establishment elites, were all simultaneously drinking their tea and dropped their glasses. We're like, oh my.
Clutch their pearls.
Yeah. He's going to help the rabble?
And they didn't have anything on him like they had on the rest of them, because it would have come out. It would have come out, and it didn't.
They tried. They lied, and they put up all these ridiculous accusations.
It didn't happen, though.
Yep, because
he was clean.
And he wasn't in the club. He wasn't supposed to win.
Right.
And he did.
They hadn't soiled him prior. He wasn't like coming up the ranks and getting.
He was supposed to visit Epstein Island before, getting his opportunity.
Right.
I'm kidding, by the way, because I don't think Obama or.
This is a good time to bring up maybe the pardon today.
Oh,
yes.
Michael Flynn.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's
This
talk
is scary.
about that.
This is scary stuff.
Why is it scary?
Not the pardon.
Oh.
I think the pardon was the right move. It's
Yeah.
scary that Judge Sullivan. So I'll give you the quick context. Michael Flynn was charged with lying to the FBI, but it was an informal meeting. He wasn't actually in an official meeting under an official investigation, as far as he knew. He's hanging out at the White House, and some guy asked him a question. You ever talk to Kislyak? And he was like, no. And they're like, gotcha, you lied. And they said, plead guilty, otherwise we're going after your son. And so he said, okay. Once Trump got control of things, he said, we're going to drop this case. The judge said, no.
Yep.
They tried
Insane.
again. Judge Sullivan started prosecuting, essentially, refusing the prosecution to drop their case. It makes no sense. And then, here's the funniest part, the most infuriating thing. Over the past month, do you know what Judge Sullivan has done? Nothing.
Nothing.
Literally, you know why? Sullivan is waiting for Joe Biden to get in so they can lock up Michael Flynn for no reason, because he offended the delicate sensibilities of the political establishment by working with Donald Trump. That's it. They used him as a weapon against Trump. They threatened his family, and Trump is pardoning him now. This is a political civil war. And that language came from Mother Jones.
Yeah.
They said the political civil war will carry on. When you have the Obama administration falsely targeting an acting national security advisor who was doing his job, targeting his family, and we saw it from the notes that got released. The FBI said, what's our goal here? To prosecute him or get him fired? The fact that they even questioned getting him fired proves that their intention was just to hurt Donald Trump's campaign.
Yes.
That's it.
Well,
or his administration.
Yeah, and with the underlying motivation of protecting themselves, right?
Yep.
Because Flynn was the one who knew where the skeletons were buried, or which closets the skeletons were in, something like that. He knew where the bodies were. There we go.
Yeah.
He knew where the bodies
Probably
were.
literally and figuratively.
Yeah, 100%. And it definitely derailed things. And it also put Trump in a really bad position where he fired him, and then he looked bad. He didn't look loyal to his people, and he threw out sort of a dynamic guy who wanted to make change in the right way, who saw the world the right way, and was part of the whole team that was supposed to make changes. And that was a huge fumble and a huge win, basically, for the Democrats there. And it just reminds me actually of why the presidential pardon exists in some cases. I mean, people had to believe that they would use the courts against your political, allies as a way to get to you. So, like, of course, people that support the president are going to be attacked. And this is a way to, maybe protect somebody in that regard. I'm not an expert on presidential pardons, so I'm just spitballing.
Yeah,
there.
it does seem weird that he pled guilty, then they tried dropping it, and it's like the case is already, did it already get to that point, like where we at? But it's weird, like you can pardon someone before they've been investigated or charged or something. Like,
yeah, I'm not an expert on that. All I know is I wish that he would have done that sooner. Brought him back into the fold.
He wanted to get reelected. He didn't want to rock the boat.
Who was advising this guy? If he would have pardoned Flynn, more people would have come out and supported him.
If Trump came out in the first debate when they said your last and final statement, I, Donald J. Trump, am going to completely legalize through executive order on my first day of re-election, January 21st. I will completely legalize cannabis nationwide and pardon all nonviolent drug offenders. If that was that last thing he said, he's like 120 million votes.
I have been saying that since 2016. One of the survey questions in the survey I did for Democrats are deplorable. The last question, bonus question. Do you think that cannabis should be decriminalized at the federal level? And it was like 75% to 25% of Democrats to deplorable voters supported it. It would have been a huge win. I called for it. I even told all my contacts in the White House, I've been pushing for it. I mean, don't have the influence to get that done, but I tried because it's a civil liberties issue. It's a civil rights issue. It's a liberty issue. I mean, also it's just sane and smart. So,
and it generates a lot of revenue through taxation.
It would have been
it would defang a lot of the cartels, which it already has started to do. You know what's really crazy? You know what the cartels are selling now?
Fentanyl?
I don't want to know. Is it getting worse?
Make a guess.
They're selling
so now
phenobarbital.
So now that pot is basically recreational in many different states.
Yeah.
You're wrong. It's way worse.
Way worse than
Yeah,
that.
avocados.
Oh,
No joke.
Whoa.
Avocados.
Really?
Yep.
Because
avocados are extremely in demand.
Lucrative.
Millennials love that avocado toast. I mean, avocados are pretty awesome. So they're shaking down avocado farms now. It's more money.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that 100% that those guys aren't dedicated to the art and the act of selling drugs. They're just trying to, if they knew a guy that bought bricks for 10 and they could sell bricks for 9 or buy, but they would do it that way. Maybe not in that order. But yeah, he could have done it. He didn't do it. There's a lot of things he could have done, didn't do. I don't know if I'm ready for the post-mortem, although I've been critical of him every time that he needed it, and I've been supportive when he has. I've never been one to come out and just throw MAGA red meat and say Donald Trump is the God savior and all that. He represented an opportunity for us, the network, to make change. And I think he was effective in some ways in that regard, and he certainly stalled some of the things that we wanted to stall and slow. But was he perfect? No. And, who knows?
The economic devastation that will come to this country in the next several months will be, I believe it's going to be
COVID related, you mean?
Yeah. It's going to be unimaginable.
And the new administration.
Tim, you really think that the COVID situation is going to be worse now than it was in March?
Based on the fact that people are already had their legs chopped off in March. And now they're coming for him again.
Oh, fiscally, you mean?
Yeah. So they're destroying ownership.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we got this. Let me pull the story up. New COVID policing unit to launch in Maryland on Thanksgiving Eve. They're high visibility enforcement efforts. They're calling them like compliance units, state and local police to enforce compliance. We're literally at a point where the government, against the science, and even in some instances against the direction of the CDC, are destroying the economy. Here's what happens. Have you noticed the Dow Jones hit 30,000 points today?
I sure did.
Yeah, that's real good news for people with money in retirement or in their stocks. But younger people and people who are lower class just got cut off completely. We're at a point where you can see the stock market skyrocketing while businesses are collapsing. Wages are gone because the jobs are gone. So Joe Biden says, I'm going to trust the scientists on what we should do. And who's his advisor? Is Dr. Osterholm, who said, lock the whole country down for 6 weeks. Remember 15 days to slow the spread turned into,
15 days.
10 months?
And the goal was just to ease the burden on the ICU so that we didn't have a bunch of secondary deaths because of capacity overloads. And one thing that I have noticed, it looks as though that the second wave in Europe isn't resulting in the same amount of deaths proportionately as the first go round. It also looks like they might be peaking. I understand, but just in terms of the science and the data is going to show a much more diminished effect, I think, this time.
And
plus, we have therapeutics and we have treatment and knowledge. And
they're gonna say, oh, that's because the lockdown is working. We better double our efforts. In Greece, if you want to leave your house, you got to text the cops. Let them know why. In France, you got to have your papers.
Where is the rapid disposable test? If we could just...
Where's Antifa?
What do you mean?
The anti-fascists to say the government cannot come down and
Right.
lock you in your home.
Right,
No, they're
exactly.
cheering for it, I guess.
Yeah.
Where'd they go?
What
They'll
I-
protest some fat old Trump supporter waving a flag, but they turn a blind eye when the government comes and starts locking people in their houses.
LARPers with attitudes for sure. But I think isn't a solution a rapid test that you can just take every day, or you can take it when you go somewhere. Just test all the time. This should be the
They're
thing
unreliable.
we should be focusing on. More
Well,
than
so
anything.
I think what's going to end up happening is we've already saw it with I think it's pronounced Qantas or Qantas. I don't know. It's Q. The Australian airline. If you want to fly international,
Qantas.
you got to get your vaccine. You got to have your approved vaccine status.
Wow.
And Ticketmaster announced they would list vaccine status on tickets if the organizers wanted it. So what's going to happen is people are going to be like, no one's forcing you to get the COVID vaccine.
But you can't do anything.
You can't go to the store because it's a private business.
Right. This is the same way that they really affected the quote lockdowns, is they just made it so that there was nowhere for you to go.
So I think everything we're seeing is the rich getting richer. Look, man, if you want to, if I had to buy a stock right now, I'd buy these pharmaceutical stocks. You know, people got to get the vaccines. They're already saying they're going to put vaccine status on cards. China wants QR codes on your phone for the whole world because that's what they're doing. So yeah. So guess what company's going to make a ton of money? I seen V for Vendetta. You've seen V for Vendetta, right?
Mm-hmm.
The guys who worked at Lark Hill bought all the stock in the pharmaceutical company and then all became ridiculously wealthy.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there's anything nefarious about the vaccine itself. I'm saying they've got a government mandate. These companies got Operation Warp Speed. And so these pharmaceutical companies are like, we got a guaranteed $2 billion contract. Invest in, that's money. Like the company's going to make money guaranteed.
Definitely. Let's talk a little bit more. I'm not familiar with the details of Warp Speed. Are you? Because
only a little bit.
Yeah.
Like they basically offered up guaranteed contracts to the companies. So some got direct funding, and I think Pfizer got a guaranteed contract.
And did they like strip any of the regulations and approvals or make it streamlined or anything like that?
I can vaguely say I think so.
Because I was just having this,
Like I didn't go through the whole bill.
this realization today that really the FDA and the regulations and clinical trials and all that is what's standing in our way of ending all of this, ending the lockdown, ending the social.
Well,
isolation.
I mean, we need the vaccine.
Yeah, I'm saying,
Did you watch Utopia?
dude, I'm the one that told you to watch.
I know,
it.
but like, did you watch the new one?
The new one, I did not watch
different.
the new one.
It
Is
is
it?
way different.
In the new one, there's a wealthy, biotech guy who wants to create a world with no racism or sexism or inequality. So he stages a fake pandemic so that they can ram through a vaccine without proper protocols, and then the vaccine actually just sterilizes people.
Right, make people beg to take the vaccine,
Yep.
which is the thing that actually sterilizes them.
And then,
Have you seen the end yet?
I saw it.
no.
He fell asleep, I think.
but the idea was people would beg for it and not realize for 5 or 10 years
Right.
that the next generation. So now in DC, there's a story you sent me.
Yeah.
They just approved 10-3 approved children can get vaccinated without the parents knowing.
Yep.
Whoa.
So imagine this: vaccines can have adverse reactions. That's a fact. Complications tend to be rare, but they do happen. Especially if you've got, how many people live in DC?
700,000 in DC proper.
DC
like
proper.
3 million maybe. In
3 million. No, just in DC proper.
Just 700,000.
Well, actually, I guess if the kid lives outside of DC but goes to school in DC, that could happen, right?
It could.
So then you've got a couple 100,000 kids maybe potential.
There's like 80,000 kids in the school district, in the school system in DC.
So of this 80,000, there is possible complication that might arise.
Oh,
And
for sure.
The mother's watching their kid convulse on the floor, screaming, "I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on." She calls 911 and they say, "Has your son been given any medication?" "No, he hasn't." "Okay." And then they give the kid a counterindicated medication and the kid just explodes right in
Yeah.
front of everyone.
Yeah.
Figuratively.
I mean, when I saw the headline for that article, I didn't think it was true. And
I watched the video.
Dude, when you sent me the link of the video timestamped for my DC City Council, like approving some bill like that, it made me laugh that you were paying that close attention to the DC Council. A bunch of jokers.
Well, when I saw that the story came out saying the DC City Council has voted, or they said they plan to finalize a vote allowing children to get as young as 11 get vaccinated without parental consent. I looked up the hearing,
Yeah.
and I watched the video of them all voting on it.
10-3.
10-3.
Yeah, and it's not even just that it's without parental consent, but it is a legitimate conspiracy to keep parents uninformed, where the the doctor can order the vaccine for the 11-year-old who has given their quote informed consent.
The 11-year-old,
right? And then they bill the insurance company without
In
notifying
secret.
the parent.
Yep.
And then when the insurance company sends you a statement, they can leave out the description of benefits, so you have no idea what that
See what
service
happened.
was.
Yeah.
So there's no paper trail, there's no anything. You're completely cut out.
When you go to the hospital, they ask you if you've taken any medications recently. You know, if you know, and there's probably, they might tell the kid, like, here's what you should or shouldn't do after getting this vaccine. If the kid has some kind of complication and the mom doesn't know, the mom could do something very serious that could harm the child.
Yeah, or just the fact that how can you do that to my child? What troubles me is establishing some notion that an 11-year-old can give consent. Now, listen,
Oh,
Tim,
yeah.
Tim, you know,
Oh, yeah.
you know that we know some people that trade in crazy theories, and we know that there's a universe out there for crazy theories. And there's one crazy theory that I've never given any credence to, which is that there's some sort of a future grooming of like pedophilia, right? Like making it okay for adults to have sex with kids, which is obviously the most disgusting thing you can think of. And I've always discounted. I've never paid attention to it. Sure, there's instances where children are molested, assaulted. It's a horrible, terrible thing. We must stop it. But when you start defining legally the fact that an 11-year-old can give informed consent, to where else can they give this level of consent at 11 years old? It's
Do you know that a very popular social media app they had these stickers where that would say like New Year's and like Happy Day. And there was one of them that said, they put out a video. I think it was Snapchat. I could be wrong. It said, you know, love knows no age.
Terrible.
And people started saying, what do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's not, maybe you're trying to say like if you're 50 and you're dating someone who's 20, it's still kind of weird, but like it's legal, but like you're going the wrong way with this one because that's not what people hear.
Exactly. And so when I brought this up to some of my friends and family about this new law in D.C., which luckily has only passed the council, it still needs mayoral execution, which is probably going to get. But then luckily in D.C., we don't have home rule for real. And so the final law gets approved by Congress. I've already started lobbying sympathetic congressmen as a way to get them.
Senate and?
No, it gets approved
House?
by the House.
They're going to approve it. It's Democrats.
True, but there are ways to do. I've seen independent, renegade, acting, isolated representatives in the House affect DC law because it was their pet issue. They find ways through amendments or whatever the case may be. So I started lobbying people because I can't let this happen. I tried to explain to my friends and family what it meant, and they read it, and then they come back with the most charitable, like, oh, well, maybe they didn't word it the right way, or that's not exactly
Optimism
what they
bias.
mean. Exactly right. It's the same thing when you send people to the old BLM website where it said that they wanted to disrupt the nuclear family and blah, blah, blah.
They got rid of that now.
I know they did. Yeah. And I sent the guy that live streamed the Portland murder. I interviewed him for like an hour and a half,
I
going through
remember
his
that.
tape back and forth. And at the end, I'm trying to ask him, why are you doing this? He's like, my daughter's got me roped into it. Not roped into it, but she's teaching me about it, whatever. I was like, do you know what it says? You're a family man. You're a dad. You're the center of your family, and you're taking care of your kids, and you believe in the power of fatherhood and the nuclear family. Let's read what it says on Black Lives Matter website about disrupting the nuclear family. And he read it, and he was like, "Oh, they just probably had a bad editor."
Wow.
It's like people won't just read the plain language on the paper. and
Look,
see-
man, the throne was seized a long time ago by this ideology. And it's interesting because we had Hotep Jesus on.
Yeah, how was that?
He was great. And he was basically saying that Ian was a pessimist, and that Ian didn't trust in people, and that's why, like, you know, it was interesting to say because Ian's usually much more optimistic. But the general idea is the people who are in positions of power, the political establishment, they think that people are better off being told what to do instead of being given the freedom to do it.
Yeah. Michael
Michael Bloomberg is the perfect example when he said tax the poor. And I don't mean that hyperbolically. He literally gave a speech about taxing the poor being the right thing to do. He said, we need to tax the poor because they make terrible decisions. And if we have their money and make the decision for them, they'll be better off. To varying degrees, I understand what he's trying to say. I can agree in some capacity. The problem is the bigger picture is a decentralized network deciding for itself will be infinitely smarter and faster moving and better than a command economy.
Yeah.
I'm much more in favor. I'm in favor of a mixed economy. Like, we definitely need a government that can say, hey, whoa, wow, that was a really bad thing we did. the market's going crazy. We need to figure this out before everything goes nuts. But I'm not a laissez-faire capitalist, but I also don't think a command economy with one person dictating what you should or shouldn't do makes sense. These people do. So Bloomberg passes the tax on sugary drinks. It's like, no, dude, like you need a cultural shift to get people to do better. You can't just mandate you can't drink soda. You know what I mean?
Right.
You figure out the right way to get people I don't know. It's got to be a cultural shift. It's got to be based upon giving people the choice to do the right thing. Taxing things,
but giving people the choice to do, quote, the right thing, but comes with the acceptance that people are going to do the wrong thing.
Yep.
And being prepared for that and being willing to live with those consequences.
Are you an optimist or a pessimist? An optimist would say, I think that in a long enough period of time, humans have the house advantage, 51-49. So the way a casino works is They don't care if you win. They love it when you win. Good. It's marketing for them. They want you to cheer, and so everyone hears you winning, and then makes them gamble more. Because in a long enough time frame, the house always wins because their edge is, over a point. That's the same thing in terms. That's how I view giving people free choice. We've proven consistently that on a long enough time frame, humans tend towards succeeding. Very well, actually. And these people don't believe it. These people think humans don't have the edge and need to be constrained, and that has led to disaster every time it's been tried. Yeah. Every single time.
Yeah, one thing that works just as well as success being rewarded is failure being consequences for failure, right?
Yep.
So people make dumb decisions. They don't have to make dumb decisions for very long, unless, of course, we're all going to socialize their their bad decisions, which is when you get into that hybrid space where you give people the freedom to do what they want. Then when they make the bad decision, then you have to pick them up and take care of them. I remember my dad used to describe to me welfare. He's like, son, do you want the people banging on your door looking for bread, or you want to just give it to them? Like, oh, it's not a bad thought. With that being the assumption that there was always going to be people looking for bread, right?
Yep. The way I put it is, they say, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach a man to fish, you feed him for the rest of his life. Well, the left often says, like, you can't lift yourself up by your bootstraps if you don't have any boots. And I'm like, yeah, it's really simple. You teach a guy to fish, hand him a fishing rod and say, have at it. And that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Give them the means to do the fishing. So there's certain things. So that's why I'm, left-leaning in certain, like I'm independent, left-leaning a bit. Because, like, yeah, we'll take a person, they're struggling, teach them to fish, give them the fishing rod. We can't take care of you forever, but we can do our best to help you out. I've gotten unemployment benefits when I was in my 20s, and it saved my life, kept me from being homeless.
Yeah.
So I think these can be good things. The problem is when people get addicted to them, and it's just easier to stay on than to get off.
Yeah.
And so now what we're seeing with the COVID lockdowns is that instead of figuring out a way to survive, a lot of people are just screaming for the government to print more money. And that's literally calling for the destruction of your economy. And they don't care. It's just people screaming to extract more from the machine.
It's not. They don't care. 99% of people in America can't even point out where Washington D.C. is on the map, much less understand the long-term ramifications of increasing the money supply.
Right.
So who knows, right? But maybe we're facing a huge demand shortage, so deflation is our biggest enemy. I don't know. I did just see that house prices in D.C. are going up. There's a huge spike in real estate activity. So I
think the rich are going to have it's the greatest thing in the world, man. If you're rich, think about what this means. They're going to decimate the economy with the lockdown, and then you can go buy all that property up. Two things happen. For one, the interest rates are in the gutter because they're like, oh no, the economy, the interest rates, drop everything down. And so you can buy up all this property and get a great rate. And the property value is tanking in a lot of places, especially New York. And then what happens when they're like, we've deployed the vaccine, and the property values skyrocket back up again? The economy collapses, the rich people buy everything up, and then it comes back, and now they control everything. Yeah. And it comes and goes in waves. They keep doing it. So poor people lose everything. They're struggling, begging for help, and the rich are getting richer. Bezos' net worth skyrocketing, Amazon's value skyrocketing, all these big companies, all their revenue, everything's skyrocketing because they locked down small business. It's,
people are fighting back. I saw a little bit. I saw like a burger shop who was defying the codes and doing GoFundMes for the fees, for the fines.
Yeah.
And I saw another gym owner who refused at the rate of like $15,000 fine.
Yeah, he was like, he tore it up, I think, right?
Yeah. We need more of that. And I recommend action like that where you're directly, if if you're going to protest, confronting the rule enforcer or the rule maker that is legitimately authorized by the government, don't put your local hostess at the restaurant in a hard spot by refusing to wear a mask or not complying. Don't be that jerk. It's not her decision, dude. Just make her life easier. It sucks for her too,
I understand wearing masks. I understand wearing masks when you're going shopping. I don't understand masks when you go to a restaurant and you walk in and they say right this way, and then they sit you down and you take your mask right off.
Well, dude, now in DC, the restaurants are like, you have to have your mask on the whole time. The whole time you're not eating. Anytime the wait staff approaches the table, you must put your mask on. And I went out the other night, and I'm eating, and I've got the cloth napkin. It's like a really thick, nice white napkin. And they come up with the next drink, and they just kind of stand there and they wait sheepishly from like 6 feet away. And I went like this. And instead of putting a mask on, I just went like this with the napkin, And then the guy's like, "That's not how you do it. That doesn't work." He goes, "It's dirty." I'm like, "What do you mean it's dirty? Just like the masks, it's all dirty. Everything's dirty." He's like, "I'm not gonna. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong." And my girlfriend told me, these people think that they're risking their lives.
They do. They've been lied to.
They're risking their lives by doing this service for you, and that they're at risk of dying if the difference between me putting up a cloth napkin versus a cloth face mask is making people insane. It makes me not want to go out. It makes me not want to.
How do you hang out with people like that, I don't know anybody who's like that.
You don't, because they don't come here.
I know they exist. I've talked to them, but like my circle of friends and family, they're just not like that.
Yeah.
You see that funny meme? It says it's like normal people, and it's a guy wearing that gigantic it's a gigantic thing you put over your head, and it's got a vent that pulls air in. It's like a clear front and a big. And he's
like you're going underwater.
It says it's like normal people, and then under it says conspiracy theorists, and it's people smiling and having turkey and Thanksgiving.
Exactly. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, actually, I can pull it up because I think Mike Cernovich.
Oh, we have the meme.
Yeah.
1 second to find the meme.
Isn't that the thing? The conspiracy theorists are the ones who want to have school open, and the ones who want to have Thanksgiving and travel and get back to work and open up the economy. Tim, if you were an 85-year-old grandmother with 12 grandchildren all in grade school right now, and you thought yourself you had 2 or 3 years left of life, would you demand that your grandchildren be deprived of their senior prom and their last varsity year of sports and hang out with their friends so that you can live out 1 or 2 extra years of your life?
No.
Of course not. No one would. No grandmother would. Why don't we let the grandparents decide on the lockdown?
You got to see this thing here. This is the meme. Normal people. Look at this thing this guy's wearing. Okay.
Jack can't see it at all.
So normal people aren't really wearing these things. This is like a weird marketing thing people are trying to do. But then conspiracy theorists, and it's like grandma giving the turkey and grandpa's smiling, and everyone's clapping and happy, and yeah, man.
They tell you what they accuse you of what they're doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's basically the rule across the board.
And it's working. And so if the Republicans are sitting there with their feet up, smoking cigars, being like, dude, I don't want to be involved. I'm just happy to get paid. And so you've got one side. When we had Hotep Jesus on, he was talking bad about the Democrats. And I was like, we do that. We smack talk Democrats all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, well, what do you think about Republicans? And he said something like, I don't know that the Republicans are doing anything that I could actually complain, talk about at all. Like, what do they do? And I'm like, they don't do anything. They're literally just sitting around pretending to fight, I guess. How many hearings have they had on big tech censorship and done nothing about it?
Oh, those Republicans. Yes, those Republicans.
Oh, I don't mean the people.
Yes, okay.
No, I mean the politicians.
Yeah. No,
I know what the Democratic politicians are doing.
Trash.
But the Republican politicians are like, we're fighting for you. And then they sit down and
we hate them all. We hate them all. The MAGA movement has no respect for the GOP. We hope it dies and disintegrates and blasts into a million, billion, trillion pieces. And we can truly point the finger at them as the limiting factor in many ways in Trump's success. So no love lost there. I was never a Republican. The book isn't Democrat to Republican.
Right?
Yeah.
It's Democrat to deplorable.
You should write a new one called Deplorable to Ugly Chumps.
Ugly chumps.
That's what Biden called them. He called them ugly chumps.
I'm an ugly chump. I bet I could be Biden in a push-up contest.
Yeah, you sure could.
Yeah. You probably could.
Let's do it.
Did you know that Biden gave a speech today or something?
Nope.
Nobody did.
Politics? Forget about politics, Tim.
I'm gonna start making some skate videos.
Do it. I want to know. First of all, I think that you should lay down 7 more tracks and put out an album. I think that first song that I heard blew my mind. No offense, exceeded all my expectations. The video was fantastic. You can play and sing, and it's on point. And we need art. We need art like that. We need videos and movies and books and literature and music videos. So Tim, you should do that. I've often wondered, coming up here so many times, what's like 10 times I've been up here.
Yeah.
And I wonder, where are you going to go, Tim? You're younger than me. You're 13, 14 years younger than me probably.
How old are you?
I'm 45.
I'm 34.
34. Okay, 11 years younger than me. You've got this whole YouTube empire built. You're doing great. You're fulfilled, and I'm wondering, where are you going to go? What are you going to do next? And it sounds like you're starting to make some moves, man. You're scaling back just a little bit, scaling back just a little bit, and going to start doing some other projects.
Oh, not scaling up, scaling back. Actually,
on the videos, on the videos.
But we're
on the political
because
videos.
We're going to be right. So, maybe we'll see what happens. I've taken it. I think the day after it was the Sunday after the election. I took the day off, like for the first literal. I'm taking a day off. I've never done that before. The only times I've ever had off is because I lost my voice or I had to get like a tooth, fixed or something, and so I had no choice but to take a day off. This was literally me being like, I'm gonna go ride my bike, and then I rode my bike 32 miles, and people were like, "That's not a day off, dude. It's like you rode your bike 32 miles."
That's awesome.
It was
of course
intense.
It's a day off.
No, it was brutal. I was like, after like 20 miles, I had 12 left. I just kind of like my brain shut off.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't stop. I'm in the middle of the woods. There's nothing you can do. You can't call anybody. You can't get a ride. It's like you either get on your bike and you finish the 12 miles or you just sit in the woods forever.
That's awesome, man.
So it was like my legs felt like it was a weird feeling, but it felt like I was ripping them to shreds.
Tim, that's amazing. And I want all of you guys out there listening to this to take note. Get outside. Exercise, get your heart rate going.
COVID, bro. COVID. You can't
Look
go
at
outside anymore.
trees.
Listen to Jack.
When was the last time you guys saw a freaking tree, man?
Listen to birds.
Get out there. You got to get out there for your sanity and to
deer.
connect with nature and reset yourself.
Well,
so
we're
I'm
gonna-
happy
we're
to
gonna-
hear that. So I want to know more, though. I want to know.
We're gonna start doing events. I don't know what's gonna happen because the lockdown stuff is getting crazy. But we're probably gonna do right now within the guidelines. Like we can have events. We don't have 100 people. We just have like maybe 20 people, which is apparently fine. But we're also in the middle of nowhere, so like no one's coming out here. But the goal is to just do some events and start filming videos. And the vlog channel is gonna be more just fun and shenanigans, I guess.
Good.
Just to like. It's a combination of, for one, things are going to start. It depends on what happens, I guess. If all hell breaks loose in the next month or so, the reason why I do political commentary is because there's too much to talk about. There's just so much going on all the time.
Right.
But I also think it's expanding the business. I can only do so much as an individual, and if I'm going to create different verticals, different genre content channels. So the vlog channel was planned a long time ago. This channel we're on right now was originally the vlog, but then COVID happened.
I see.
So I was like, I couldn't find the vlogger. It was too hard to do. COVID happened, so we're like, we'll just do a talk show, I guess. Now it's like, okay, now we got to get the vlog going. Talk show's relatively easy to do because we've been hearing the news all day. We sit down, we have a conversation.
You have great guests.
Indeed, the best guests.
The 6 segments I do on my other channels, Timcast and Timcast News, those are a lot harder to produce.
Yeah.
So I don't script anything, but it is reading for hours, nonstop in the morning, all day, all night, constantly just pulling things up, and doable, but it's intense.
Yeah. You have amazing retention.
I remember everything. It's just, yeah.
I like it. Sometimes when I'm riffing on just bigger picture issues, you stop in, you're like, well, no. And then there's this process, and then this thing, and that thing, and that thing. I'm like, sweet.
I read
That's exactly what I need.
hundreds of articles a day, probably.
Yeah.
And so the reason why you get into this groove where I read everything. So it's like when I see a story and they say, Donald Trump declares X, I say, oh, wow, because he declared Y back then, which means this. And then you can pull that stuff up. I do think it's funny when I see, like, I'll notice something. And there's oftentimes, as much as the left won't admit, they hate admitting it, or they don't actually watch my content. There's a lot of stuff that I report that's fairly original, and then I see it pop up, and a bunch of people start saying similar things, and then becomes a meme or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but at a certain point, it's like political commentary. I feel like is just one direction that has its cap, and if I'm going to expand the business and do more, that means I got to lead the charge.
Yep.
So that's been one of the biggest challenges. There's no, what do they call it, like a turnkey business, where it's like you click the button, walk away, and the business makes money.
Yeah.
It doesn't work in this industry.
Or any.
I mean, but no, I mean, like the idea is, I was watching a King of the Hill episode where, Khan buys a car wash.
Yeah.
A turnkey business. You set it up, people go there, they put the money in the machine, they use the car wash, they leave.
Yeah.
And then you come back every night and you pick up the money and then you go deposit in the bank.
And repair the machines and pay the insurance. And
Right. But you're not there managing on a day-to-day basis.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just sort of a myth, this idea that there's a business that runs itself. Passive income isn't hardly passive at all. And you definitely need to lead the charge. Expand.
Right.
Expand. I mean, do you think that there's a social or emotional toll on focusing on the conflict and chaos in politics all the time? Does it get to you ever?
No, I've been focused on it my entire life.
Yeah.
Because because I was 14, 9/11 happens.
Yeah.
Then we get all the war stuff, all of the music videos, all the celebrities, everything they're screaming in my face. Barack Obama comes around, we're going to end these wars. I vote for him, and he lied to me. So it was endless. It was endless. So I started working for nonprofits.
Yeah.
And then it was literally endless. I'll tell you what, man, I worked for a nonprofit in California, and it was when the Deepwater Horizon thing happened, when the oil spill happened in the Gulf.
Yeah.
And they gave us this fact sheet. So I'm waving to people, and I was like, hey, we got a serious disaster. Did you hear what happened in the Gulf? Like, Deepwater Horizon erupted. We're trying to get funding for awareness. We need support. And people will be like, wow, I didn't know that. And we had pictures and everything. And then one day, I wave to a guy, and I say, here's what's happening. Here's how much is spilled. And he goes, that's not true. And I was like, what? And he goes, that's not true. It hasn't spilled that much. The actual amount it's spilled is it's like 10 times less. And I was like, oh. And he's like, why are you lying to me? And I was like, this is what they gave me. Like, yeah, why did they give you lies? And then I got really angry. Called up my boss right away and said, yo, some guy just told me I was lying. I just looked it up. This isn't true. Like, you told us to go out and raise money. This is not true. And he goes, yeah, well, just keep using it. And I was like, well, you're asking me to commit fraud? Like, to knowingly lie to someone to get them to give me money? I'm not doing that. They fired me.
Good for you, Tim.
Well, I mean, I can't. I'm not going to go to jail for this. Like, I know I'm lying to you, but give me your money anyway.
Yeah, people lie and get money all the time without going to jail. So good on you. There's been a vigilante in you forever, I imagine. Well,
so that was I worked for nonprofits, and then eventually I was like, these companies, they're just companies. The nonprofits, they're companies. They have a bottom line. They want to make money. And there's like you know what I learned? The real nonprofits, the real charities are the small ones, where it's like a dude who picks up a bunch of hot meals and drives them around himself to it's like a church. They drive around hot meals to people who are hungry and to the elderly. Those are the real charities. Then you see all these like TV charities and these big brand charities. Look at Joe Biden's charity, right? They gave zero towards cancer research. It was a foundation supposed to give out grants. They gave like nothing. It was all salaries, like just like big 6-figure salaries. I'm not gonna make any accusations, but let me tell you something. If you get dirty money, if you need to take some dirty money, you start a charity, right? If you got to pay out dirty money, you hire people for that charity. You pay them a salary, and then once it runs out, you shut it down.
Exactly right.
Cleaned.
Exactly right. Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what he did. I'm just saying,
It's easy to do, and it happens all the time, and there's all kinds of nonprofits like that operating in Washington, D.C., and people get paid and they pay taxes, but it's tax deductible for the donors, which makes it a nice thing for them. It's better than paying someone directly. It's not tax, so it's tax advantaged. It's all a game, Tim. All of it is a game. I teach my son at a very young age. He learned to ask, who's getting paid? Where's the money going?
What does Alex Jones always say? Is it Key Bono?
Key Bono?
Yeah, it's like a...
Who benefits?
Who benefits. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So my son at like 8 and 9 was like, somebody somewhere is getting paid.
Yeah.
True.
And
someone's finding something from this.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the political commentary stuff, it's like I'm doing more than anybody else. This show is the most fun out of any of the commentary I do.
Yeah.
So it's like, as long as we keep booking people and keep doing stuff like this, it's a lot less stressful. It's a lot more fun and engaging.
Yeah.
And it requires me to I'm not as so much time is consumed on my other show, which is an hour and 45 minutes a day of political commentary and various news stories, and that's a lot harder to produce. And it's tough, but
it's funny. I do the opposite. So for me, like coming here, you're right. Easy to not have to prepare a whole lot. For my interview show, like I spend probably 10 hours preparing for each interview. Read their latest book, read their latest commentary, be up to speed, and go slow and like get into it. And I wish I could put out 2 or 3 of those a week, but I can only do them in bursts, like 8 and 10 at a time over like 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'm just exhausted because it's so much work. So, I love it though, not complaining.
So here's the other thing. When I was covering stuff on the ground, I would walk like 10 miles, 20 miles a day in some instances. Yeah. It was great. I was doing parkour, like no joke. Yeah. During Occupy Wall Street, what made me effective in live streaming was that I could run through a packed crowd. You get a packed crowd of 1,000 protesters in the street, and I could move through it as if there was no one there because I was like jumping left to right, crouching, going under people's arms and stuff, and then finding the spaces, jumping over things. And then you spend so much time the past couple of years just sitting in a chair all day, every day. I'm trying to skate as much as possible, but man, it just feels bad. I've been extremely physically active my whole life, skateboarding since I was younger, and so I used to skate 8 hours a day, just endlessly, just gaunt and covered in sweat, not able to eat. I used to eat a ridiculous amount, like 10,000 calories a day, just to keep up with skating. That's how intense it was. Now I'm sitting in a chair and it's like, this is awful. It's too much. But the problem is I can't even go to the DMV to get like my license updated because I work literally until 4:30 from the morning, and then I eat, get some exercise, and then prepare for this show. And I'm like, that's untenable at a certain point. Yeah. It worked out for the past 2 years because we had the midterms until the 2020 election. But now I'm like, you mentioned that music video, right? I wrote that song. I wrote the story. The music video, everything it's based on, I executive produced it. So basically, the animation directors, the animators in the studio who put it together, they did a bunch of brilliant stuff, like the color changes. Each different political faction has a different color. But basically, they'd send it back to me and say, here's what we need to do. Here's what we need to do. So one of the things we did was they added something that's really interesting. At one point at the last verse, there's a sign that said, on the TV, it says, "Don't trust the wolf." Mm-hmm. Something they just added. Mm-hmm. And then I said, make the kid holding a stuffed wolf animal under the bed. So now it's Nice. And so basically, I came to them with a story. I dictated it. They Nishiro recorded me telling the story of what the song's going to be, basically what it is, and then I performed it, wrote the lyrics, and then helped like produce the video. There's a ton of other ideas I have for a bunch of really great short films and documentary stuff that I've never been able to produce. So at a certain point, if I want to actually expand, I have to stop hyper-focusing in one area, pull back, and then dedicate more time in another area. Yeah. So if I do only 2 of these segments a day instead of 6,
that'd be great.
I would be doing, my show would be cut down to about, my main podcast would be about 50 minutes, 50 to 55 minutes, and down from an hour and 45. This show would be exactly the same, but that means I could finish up way earlier, and that means I can spend more time shooting the vlog content, selling merch, making cool stuff, playing with lasers and gadgets. Also, though, hiring people to do documentary films, like doing legit long-form documentary stuff, real impactful stuff, sending out a crew to go and cover a big political issue and giving them like a decent budget and stuff. That requires oversight. So that's kind of the part of the plan.
Moving into management, Tim.
I mean, to a degree, yeah. So it's like, I mean, it's
that's what happens.
Well, it's not that it's what it happens. It's like, man, it's just like I'm at this point where if I just do the exact same thing I do every day, 6 segments, then this show, that's the plateau. How do you expand beyond that? You can't. You can't. If I'm the person who's physically doing it all, I can't hire someone to do commentary for me. I can't be like, hey, you talk fast. Here, come sit here and record the segment before I'm going to leave. I can create a channel where we have a variety of hosts who do certain things. So there's definitely plans for more content, but that means I have to free up some of the time throughout the day to bring on more people to do more stuff. Yeah. And so part of it is I'm going to have more time to, for one, exercise, skate, but we're going to film that and we're going to use that for a brand and merchandise and just having fun. And then at the same time, that's, I could still theoretically do all that right now because I have that about hour every day. But then I want to do like that music video, need time to record music. Yeah. More importantly, though, I got some really great ideas for short films. And documentaries. You got to expand your creative horizons and make time. We got to launch the. So here's what I've been saying to people for a long time. COVID caused this problem. It was 2 years ago. The plan was to launch an actual brand, and then COVID happened, and everything went, and just like was a sledgehammer to all the plans. Tim Pool stops at a certain point. You know, I've gotten beautiful offers from big companies that would have set me up for life. And I'm like, yeah, but you know, I got to be honest. Like, I think a lot of people who work at some of these companies so I've been to these big podcasting companies, and they're like, here's what we're offering you. And I'm like, I don't think you're as good as business as I am. You're as good at business as I am. I think if I was in charge of this with no contracts and nothing holding me down, I'd make way more money. So at a certain point, I need to create a brand that can house more than just me and my name. So I can bring on people who I think have talent, who need a place to get that, you know, step up opportunity or whatever. People who are really good at something but don't know how to get that path forward.
So you're a capitalist in the capital sense of the word at this point.
Absolutely.
Well, not that you weren't, but I'm saying, moving to, you know, trading your labor for using your capital and putting that to work.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who have some skills that they probably can't market. Like it's how skateboarding works, for instance. Pro skateboarders are struggling right now because the industry has changed dramatically. It used to be you got a sponsorship from a company. You say you go pro. You have your pro model. It's a board with your name on it. That board is sold in stores, and you get, you know, $1 every time a board sells. But you might sell a lot all over the country with millions of skateboarders, tens of millions, you know, or more. You might sell a decent amount, and you're going to get paid well. But you also have magazine spots. They call it photo incentive. So if you appear in a magazine doing a trick, and you can see the board, they cut you a check for $500 right on the spot. Well, it's changed now. Nobody reads magazines. They used to put out promo videos like the video drops at this point. They still kind of do. They still do. But Instagram happened. YouTube happened. Now the highest paid professional skateboarders in the truest sense of the word are not even that good. They're just fun to hang out with. So you watch their video and it's a dude who can skate and his buddies and they're doing funny things and having a good time and it's entertaining. And they sell way more boards than some of the biggest companies that were like the pro and best skaters.
Yeah.
But pro skaters don't know how to... They don't know how to, you know, actually sell the value of their skills.
Right.
And so what happens is a company says, we know that if we film you, we're going to sell boards. So you don't got to worry about it. Otherwise, you don't make any money at all.
Right.
That's capitalism.
Right.
You know, I think the left doesn't understand that you can't just take a skateboard and be like, we're going to pay you. But North Korea does. No, for real. They have like, this is the craziest thing about North Korea. They have skate parks and there are kids who are told like, your job will be to be a skateboarder. And then we'll make sure you always have your board and you go to the skate park and you skate and get good.
Nice.
That's crazy. Anyway, the point is.
But Tim, I think the moral of the story here for you is in today's day and age, and especially with the audience that you've built already, do what's fun, and your audience is going to go with you.
Well, I mean, there's no obligation, and I think
they support you, they love you, dude. That's what I mean.
There's a lot that do, and there's a lot that just casually watch for sure. But I think the point is, I mean, regardless, figure out a way to do it.
Yeah.
Do your thing.
Yeah.
You know. So it's really funny because I got people smack talking me. You know, they're always talking smack, like as if somehow I all of a sudden one day came into money, and I was like, dude, I used to work for Disney. Like this was 6 years ago. I worked for Disney. Do you think they pay nothing? Like no,
Right.
Disney paid stupid money.
Yeah.
Like there was one instance where I'll just come on and say it because I got no problem talking about it. I was trying to break my contract because they went full SJW, and I was like, I don't produce this stuff. And one day I woke up with $40,000 in my bank account. I was like, what is this? And they were like, oh, it's your bonus. And I was like, for what? Like, I'm not doing what you want me to do. And they were like, you know, just, and I'm like, sure. And then sure enough, it came time for my contract. Yeah. It was, let's grease the wheels a little bit, buddy. Why don't you produce some of this progressive SJW, whatever? And I'm like, nah. And so then when my contract came due, they were like, so, and I was like, so, and they're like, okay, have a nice day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, later.
Yeah.
So and then I had to figure out like, I've saved a bunch of money over the years, working hard every day.
Every day, consistent, hardest working man in this whole medium. I say it all the time.
So I started a business. I started YouTube. And I flew to Europe and I flew to Sweden, and that cost a lot of money. I didn't make that money back for a while. So I had this money saved up. I invested it and I started doing that, went down that route, and then started doing more and more. And it's funny because people think like I bought this really big house, and people are like, wow, Tim must have won the lotto. I'm like, dude, I was trying to buy this property a year and a half ago, and then COVID happened. So it was a year and a few months ago. I was touring buildings, trying to find it. Our sale fell through. And then like winter hit and made everything really hard to go and check things out. But then when COVID happened, it was like, that was the end of it. So then when it came to, at a certain point, we were on like a hiatus for like 4 or 5 months. I was like, we gotta force this through by whatever means necessary. Because otherwise, we're just sitting here doing nothing, and it's the same thing every single day.
Yeah.
Now we have the house. We're not quite set up. I got good news.
What's that?
Gigabit internet will be here in 3 weeks.
Lit.
Gigabit. So no more internet cutting out when we do shows.
Or can I tell them this? Tim texted me a couple of weeks ago. He's like, "Dude, you have good internet?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like,
that was like a week ago.
Yeah, I'm like, "Yeah, I got good internet." He's like, "Can I give you an 83 gigabit file to upload?" He was gonna drive it to my house so that we could upload it on my 75 up and down. Woot woot.
And yeah. So I had it driven to Philly, where we have gigabit.
You can't just take it to
It was faster because it would have taken. So I set it to upload overnight. It's like 15 hours to upload, and then it crashed.
Of course,
the browser crashed, and I'm like, so I tried it again. Whatever, browser crashed.
Faster to drive there and back, and drive there, upload it, and drive back.
It was like four or so hours to drive there, but then it uploads in 10 minutes.
Right.
So it's just like, might as well just send someone out. That was the Sunday special with Ben Shapiro, which is really funny because these like a lot of these lefties who are like the leftist YouTube people, I gotta say, they're low information people. Like, they're not good at connecting the dots. And I don't know if it's just the active Twitter people who do it or whatever, but they're spreading this meme around that I refuse to have people on my show because we don't have good enough internet or something like that. I don't do Skype, but that I did a Skype with Ben Shapiro, and I'm like, I didn't. I recorded it hard to the camera, and then I sent the file to be uploaded. It was like, I'm honored. I thought it was a good show, but it was like we did a standard call, low res, like not broadcast quality conversation where I could hear him, and then he would ask, and then I would answer. And then I took the hard file and I had to upload it because it was, long story short, first of all, we don't have actually, is there a screen anywhere in front of you, Jake?
No screen. Sometimes I wish there was.
I have this little monitor down here. I have this little monitor down here. And we have multiple people, and we're not set up in any way for Skyping. And the internet can't handle 2 streams up and down. It's bad enough that our internet cuts out. Could you imagine if in the middle of it our guest cuts out, we can't come back?
No.
So I'm just like, dude, we're not designed for that. But I'll tell you something else, man. Online interviews are a waste of time.
Oh, get out of here, dude. It's my bread and butter, and I think I gotten really good at them.
He makes it work.
Well, okay, fine. To be fair, there is a big difference between, like, we're talking, and then I can see I can see it in your eyes, I can see it in your face. Yeah. You might be like, wait, hold on, you'll interrupt me. When it comes to online stuff, it's like, I ask, you answer. I wait, you ask, I answer. I wait. It's good for probably an interview on facts and data and stuff like that. But when it comes to having a real conversation, there's nothing that beats sitting down with people.
Yeah, no, I agree. In person is very good. That said, I think, in my defense, Jack Riffy Live on YouTube, baby, I think reach a good creative spot with somebody on a remote interview like that.
I think you've done, like, the thing you did with Matt Brainerd was significant. It was important.
Yeah.
That interview on so that's the Voter Integrity Fund, finding actual evidence and looking at the data. So, it's better to do it than, if you can't get someone in person, do it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The sound quality must have been really good when you did it the way that you had done it, because you had hard live recordings in each places, and then they just merged.
The video, everything was pristine, perfect quality.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did you not realize that I had a 4K video,
right.
no artifacting, perfect audio. It was 83 gigs, and then we sent it out for upload, and then they edited them together.
Yeah.
Yes, some people notice. They're like, "Yeah, I realized it sounded like you were reading answers to, like you were giving your answers to specific questions." I'm like, "Right," because that's the only way we could really do it. I guess the other issue too is, like, first of all, I don't go on anybody's shows, but I made an exception for Ben Shapiro because he's Ben Shapiro. It's a big show, and I've interviewed him in the past, and so he hit me up, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, but there's a lot of shows. I won't go on people's shows for the most part.
Yeah,
I got very little time at all, and so that was it. I woke up at 8. I woke up at 7, reading the news, start recording. Start my research. From 8 to 4:30, recording and everything, and then from 4:30 until 6 or whatever, it was setting up and doing the recording for Ben. Then once I was done, I grabbed a bite to eat, came upstairs, and we did the next show.
Grinding. But one thing,
it's one of the reasons I don't do other people's shows.
One thing you've been talking about, which I think is good for people to remember, is like you have to be very mindful with your time. You have to be very deliberate with your decisions around your time and time management. I personally have been working to try to make sure that I say no to enough things so that I can say yes to the things that are important to me.
I've had some pretty big shows, and I'm just like, yeah, I can't do it. The traditional ones I just ignore. Like when I get hit up by like, Fox News. Right. I don't want to call them out, but I'm just like, there's literally no upside for me to spend my time. Like if you want to offer me a hard contributorship, they pay millions of dollars. Some of these people, it's insane to get a guarantee. Like if we hit you up at this time, you got to come on. But I wouldn't do any of those deals, man. I think it's a bad idea. If I had, a podcast network, I've had them come at me, and I've had networks be like massive offers, just like rich for life kind of offers, and I'm like, nah. It's not worth it. It's not. I wouldn't do it. I went down that route with Disney, and it was a mistake. So, we'll see how it plays out for, there's some other shows that took big deals.
Not going to mention any names.
No, but, I think, I kind of feel like, no, sure, I'll say it. It's pointless not to, but I think, I think Joe Rogan took the Spotify deal because what the Wall Street Journal reported, it was like $100 million.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna slice away the overwhelming majority of his audience. On December 1st, Joe Rogan is going exclusive on Spotify. So it's gonna be a major boost to Spotify. But he's gonna be off iTunes. You know what happens when someone for the first time opens the iTunes app to find a podcast? Joe Rogan.
Yeah, of course.
That's the best real estate in the podcasting world that he's losing, but for good reason.
So, but there is a analogous situation here in broadcasting history. If you remember, Howard Stern.
Yep.
Howard Stern
What's he doing?
Wild. He's still rich, right?
Sure.
Wildly popular AM radio host on public broadcast, FM radio, and then XM. Right, or was it Sirius?
Sirius, I think.
One of them.
Was it Sirius?
They're now the same.
So, yeah.
Hired him away into this walled off pay per prescription, and I think that they were pretty pleased that they did that. He made a ton of money. He was uncensored in a way that he couldn't have been on the public radio, broadcast radio rather. And what did it do for his career? Did it made him wealthy, but did it make him have wider reach, more narrow reach?
No, but for me, I'd call it retirement.
Is he still even doing it?
He is, and he's super anti-Trump, and he's super pro-establishment. He's apologized for being, off color and stuff. He's really just become this, vanilla yogurt, boring,
Boo.
I don't listen to his show, to be honest, but I was reading some articles.
Back in the day, back.
Oh yeah, he's apologized for a ton of the things. He's denied saying some of the things he said in the past. He was a shock jock. He was the shock jock. I look at it this way, man. If somebody takes a massive payout to do that big jump, for me, in my personal opinion, and I mean no disrespect to Howard Stern or Joe, I look at it like it's a retirement. It's like you do this hard work, you do it for a long time, you reach the top of the mountain. What do? Someone comes along and says, "We're gonna cash out your chips, $100 million."
Yeah, okay.
Heck yeah.
I'm done, man. I beat the casino. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Now I can hang out. But to be fair though, like Joe got the best one of the best deals in the world. He's getting Wall Street Journal report. I'm assuming that their data, their facts are straight. They said $100 million, and now he doesn't got to worry about getting banned.
Dude, well, is that really accurate? I suppose the contract is so big that they're not going to cancel him due to internal pressure.
I kind of feel like, I wonder if in his contract it says if they sever, he gets the payout. Because then it's kind of like, ban me, do it.
Right.
Because then I'm free and I get the money anyway.
He'd be pushing that for sure. It's just an interesting thing to think about, sort of setting up a walled garden around your content and what is the goal of what you're doing. I remember listening to the Joe Rogan podcast back when there was just, it was just this tripped out weird intro, and they were just talking about MMA and his comedian friends, and that was it.
Do you know the story, the Joe Rogan Tim Pool story?
Which one?
The original, like how it all went down.
No.
Oh, yeah.
This is a great story. So during Occupy Wall Street, like a month after Occupy,
drinking game with Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah.
So after it was like a month after they shut down the park, so it still existed. Joe's podcast was on Ustream, I think, and he was getting like decent viewership, but it was just like the Joe Rogan Experience on Ustream. It was, and so people were tweeting at him, "You got to have Tim Pool on your show." And so he tweeted at me something like, "Yeah, man, I'm down. Let's make it happen." We DM'd, and then I was like super excited. And so I wasn't trying to push it because I think I was 25 and I'm like, this is going to be awesome. Joe Rogan's this famous comedian. So I bought a plane ticket and I said, okay, he's booked me. He's told me where to be. He's told me the time. I got on the plane. I fly to LA. As soon as I land, my phone goes, "Meh. Sorry, dude, I can't do it. We got something come up. And I was like, oh, God. You know what, man? I can't get mad at somebody for not doing me a favor. But I was smart about it. And I said, there's an event, a protest happening in LA. So I definitely have something I can do while I'm here and I can hang out with people. So it was a bummer. Now, like a year goes by and people are tweeting at Joe again, like, dude, you got to get on Tim Pool. Now it's 2012. And he tweets at me and he's like, we tried doing it last year and it didn't work out. What do you say, man? And I was like, yeah, let's do it, man, for sure. And he's like, all right, let's do it. So again, tells me what time, tells me the place. I get on the plane. I land. Sorry, dude, can't do it. And then he still had a show. He just bumped me for other people. He bumped me for other people.
What a dick.
And so
he double
twice.
booked you. You flew across the country.
Well, it was the first time, then a year later. And
dick move.
This was back, it was less formal, and I was at a point in my career where I was like, I have to take that risk.
Totally.
You know, it's like if he bumps me, it's I can't sit here and be like, cover my costs, do this. And I was like, no, I'm at that point. Like I think I had like 13,000 Twitter followers, but I had enough people following my live on the ground reporting that, it got his attention. And so that was it. I was pissed, and I DM'd him. I was like, bro, how are you doing this? Like, are you kidding me, dude? Like, this is the second time I flew out here, and then he just didn't respond. And I was like, whatever, man, I'm over it. And so that was it for a couple of years. And then I guess he just one day hit me up and was like, bro, I'm so sorry about how that went down. He's like, I guess he was saying like, he didn't realize. Because for him, it was like he does his show and it doesn't matter. Like he didn't realize I'm some dude like trying to come out all excited. And so he apologized and asked me to come. He's like, if you ever want to come to one of my shows, man, just let me know. And so we went, because I was in Philly. And I was like, you in Philly anytime soon? He's like, oh, dude, I'm in Philly like next week. And I was like, bro. And he was like, dude, come on down. Went down to his show. And then his show was amazing.
Yeah.
And then he invited us backstage and hung out. And he was like, I'm sorry about that. It was basically just like I said, for him, he's this famous comedian. He does his thing, and it was kind of nonchalant, like he didn't think it mattered. And for me, I'm like this, hungry
huge
young
break.
Yeah, this hungry young dude, like super excited. And then it wasn't him trying to screw me over. It was just like
it would
something came up, and he didn't. He was like, whatever.
It would have been like getting booked for Carson, and in like the 70s or the 80s, Johnny Carson, and you're like in the green room ready to go on, and they're just like, nah.
Yeah.
Or
sorry,
you flew
dude.
Out. But but he was like, dude, I didn't realize you were flying out for this, man. Like, I feel so bad. He's like, and then he just apologized. But then something funny happened. I did a video about his Jack Dorsey podcast.
Yeah.
That got like major downvotes. And I did like a 10 or 13 minute segment or something. He auto copyright claimed it. So I get a notification for a copyright claim that all my revenue is not going to go to this company. And so I DM'd him like, yo, hey man, like I think it was automatic because I showed a screenshot of the podcast. And then he was like, oh, sorry about that. Let me take care of it. Then he comes back like 15 minutes later. He's like, hey man, you made some really good points. Can I call you right now? And I was like, oh, all right, sure. And so he calls me and we talked about just like what I had said in my segment about Twitter and the censorship and what was going on. And he was like, man, yeah. He's like, you know what, man, I owe you. You got to come on the show sometime. We'll figure it out. I'm like, yeah, no problem. He's like, yeah, we'll figure it out. He's like, dude, I really appreciate this, like, helping me understand what's going on Twitter and stuff. And I was like, for sure. So I'm sitting there in my shorts. I'm playing World of Warcraft. And then my phone rings. And I'm like, it was Joe Rogan. And I'm like, hello? And then he goes, do you want to come on the show on Friday? And it was Wednesday. And I was like, I got like this Friday? I got to fly tomorrow? He's like, yeah. I was like, all right. Like, I guess so. And then from there, it just kind of fell into place, the Twitter thing with Jack Dorsey and with Jack Goddard. So basically, after we did that show, he was like, we got to do something crazy and don't tell anybody. We're going to try and see if we can pull it off. I don't know if it'll happen. Don't cite, if we talk about it, people it'll jinx it. So we'll just see if it happens. And then you get a call, come out, we're going to do this thing. And I was like, I'm going to sit in front of CEO of Twitter and their lawyer. And I was like, whatever, man.
Dude, you were on point. I watched that one. You were on point.
I didn't prepare. Like I didn't do any
extra.
Yeah. Like I didn't sit down and say like, okay, here's what I talk about. I was just like, yeah, tell me where to sit.
You knew all the stuff already. It's all in your head.
You know, after the fact, I was like, oh, there's a couple of things I could have done better, but whatever. I wasn't there for anybody, but you know, I wasn't there for other people. I was there because there was a lot of things I was angry about, a lot of things I had seen that I wanted to talk about. So wasn't an issue, but I do think they thought it was going to be, why did you ban Alex Jones? And they're going to be like, because he said this. And I would go, oh, fine. No, It was like there's a deeper philosophical questions about what does it mean to break the rules? What's the political like perception on your rules, and like who made you the arbiter of what's acceptable politics and stuff like that?
Yeah, and it was clear too that they seem to be learning things from you at that time, and they don't know exactly what's all going on inside of their big corporation. Nothing's changed. I have a similar story about getting bumped several times. Dave Rubin has asked me to come on his show 3 times now. I did not fly out, luckily, but it's always like, all right, let's do it, and then something happens. Let's do it, and then something happens. And it's fine. That's how it works. The game works.
I did a live stream in like 2016, I think, because people had asked me about what had happened with Joe Rogan. And so I did a stream explaining what happened, and I just said, listen, man, I'm not mad at anybody because I can't get mad at someone for not doing me a favor.
Right.
Like him offering me up this show. I was like, flying out to LA the second time and getting bumped is mildly perturbing.
Wow.
Yeah, I was mildly perturbed, to put it that way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I took the risk. I took the shot. It didn't happen. I'm not going to be mad at anybody. You know, I'm not going to hold a grudge or anything like that.
How do you handle something like that, Tim? What did you do? What did you do when you get the call? When you get the text? You just landed, 6-hour flight.
I DM'd him back like, "Yo, what WTF?" And then I moved on with my life. I was like,
perfect.
I was like, yeah, the problem was like I knew who he bumped me for.
Who was that?
I'm not going to say their name. It was multiple people. But I guess like for him, it was like
business.
Yeah, I got these people. I can get them on right now. I better do it. I got to tell Tim I can't do it.
Yeah.
And then he didn't know that I flew out.
I get it.
So he probably didn't realize.
Fair enough.
I mean, I thought it was a dick move, but I don't hold it against him. It's just, and this was 8 years ago. This was like, his show was not that big. It was just like Ustream. It was like, one of the first like podcasts.
It sure was. I didn't even realize. I'm like, why am I listening to this?
Hey, it worked out for me because then he ends up being like, I feel really bad about how that all went down, man. You should come out to my show, and then come on the show. And like, we ended up doing one of the most significant shows he had, like to sit down with these.
Absolutely. And what's interesting to think about it is if he had you on earlier, it would have been less impactful.
Right.
Than you going on later when his audience had grown and his reach had grown. Such a dramatic effect. Yeah. So it all worked out in the end, Tim. And now you're talking about skateboarding.
Yeah. Well, so the last time I went on earlier this year, it was because I probably shouldn't. There was somebody else who wanted to do a political discussion, left, right, like me, him, and Joe Rogan, and I'm like, you're still just like. One of the problems with these conversations on Joe's show is often it's liberals and leftists talking about conservatives without bringing conservative on. He's had on Crowder before, I think, too. But like the Twitter thing was, Rogan's pretty left, and then I'm like left leaning, but very critical race theory and like a disaffected liberal type. But there were no hardcore conservatives in a conversation about conservative censorship. So that's one of the things too. So. I went on Rogan's show earlier this year because we were supposed to do like leftist commentator, me and Joe, and then COVID happened. So the other person was like, I can't make it. And then so I was like, I'll come, whatever. I'll take the van. I got this van. I need to drive it. We'll go drive it. And then
the white van. I had a guy join the Liminal Order, and I interviewed him just the other day, who told me that he first started listening to Joe Rogan, then he heard about you, and then he saw me on your show.
Right on.
So the Joe Rogan radicalization funnel is in full effect. Starts with Joe, passes through Tim, ends up with me.
Interesting.
Radicalized, doing all kinds of man stuff.
It's
just amazing the way that the network works and how you put out content and people come to you, and how this whole web is just being woven all over the country. And you're at the forefront, man. You're pushing things. You're pushing huge numbers, competing with the big guys. I mean,
we got to simmer down on politics a lot.
Yeah,
we have to. So I can't announce anything specific, but I'll just say, and you know the details, so don't say anything. We're planning a really big show, which is It's not going to be political, but it's with someone very political. It's going to get me in trouble.
It's gonna be
But
fun.
yeah. So that's in a couple of weeks. It's just I'm just asking for trouble doing what I do.
Indeed, well, you got to have fun. I think you said to me once, just to not be bored.
Heck
Yeah. So the idea is we're having on some pretty prominent political figures, but we're not going to talk politics.
Good.
Because one of the things we were talking about is like, okay, this is going to be risky. YouTube's like, trigger happy if we bring on some controversial figures. But I'm like, or so it was proposed to me, like we should talk about all these other things outside of, basically once the media shifted to the Trump narrative, it's been Trump talk politics all day nonstop. And there are other cultural issues
Yes.
that kind of got brushed aside in the past, 10 months or whatever.
Definitely.
With the election ramping up.
5 years even. I am booking a whole new slot of guests for my podcast, Jack Murphy Live on YouTube. And I'm deliberately trying to stay away from politics, history, culture, science, futurism, actors, comedians, like really trying to go with evergreen content back to things that can really help people in their lives rather than just swinging for the fences with brawling in the political sphere. We're all kind of exhausted by that.
Yeah.
Yep.
The election's over.
So tomorrow I did one segment this morning, and then I was like, I'm gonna take the rest of the day, and then but we're gonna do the show late at night, and then tomorrow's Thanksgiving. I'm gonna have some turkey or something. I have no idea, whatever. But we should hit super chats because we went a little long, huh?
Hello, super chats.
If you have not already, smash the like button. Give it a little tap. There's a little thumbs up. It really does help. And thank you for doing so. And don't forget to subscribe. Hit the smash the like button, subscribe, notification bell. Let's read from some of these super chats. Colin P says, people often need a common enemy to unite against to bring them together. I suggest us PS5 owners gang up on Tim for not having a PS5. Haha, you PS4 trash.
Yes.
I will have a PS5 in a couple days when it comes in the mail.
PS4, more like PS poor.
PS5.
Just joking.
All I play is Skater XL and Spelunky anyway.
It's pretty straightforward.
But it's because I beat Dragon Quest a long time ago, and I beat Skyrim 50 million times, and then Fallout 76 wasn't that good. So I used to play Destiny all the time, and the Division. You ever play the Division? You play video games at all?
No. When I was younger, I pioneered the Atari 2600 and ColecoVision and all of that.
You might like Division. I don't know where they're at now, Division 2, but it's basically there's a pandemic causes basically complete collapse, and then but the cool thing about it is the guns.
We were getting away from politics.
Well, but it's a game where it's like a Tom Clancy game. You play a special operative. The president enacts Presidential Directive 51, creating a remnants of the government trying to hold things together. And you're in New York. The first one is New York City. The second one, I think, they just went back to New York City. But what's cool is like the guns are real guns. Like you actually find guns and you do mods, and I'm pretty sure for the most part they're based on all real guns. So it's like,
sweet.
Yeah, it seems like a game conservatives would probably get a kick out of. I mean, probably a lot of Clancy games they'd probably like. Charles W. says, holy cow, Twitter just suspended the Republican who chairs the committee that held the hearing on PA's election today. Unbelievable.
We were talking about that earlier.
Yep. Let's see. The Hylian Juggalo says, 5 years been a mental health nightmare. Friend had psych break from it. He thinks he lives in 9601 down to the tech he has. Talks only about events like Bill's scandals. Stares into space if I bring up any event since 9/11. Wow.
Interesting.
Crazy. Scott Bullion says COVID will never go away because Democrats know how to steal elections now. Garrett Crowell says 72% of Republicans will leave the GOP if a Trump party is formed. Trump needs to do this and pick his legislature, turn the GOP into a second party. I mean, that might result in a conservative split, which gives Democrats a supermajority for a long time.
That's how Bill Clinton got elected.
Yeah.
40-something% of the vote, barely.
Wow. Well, that was also Ross Perot.
That's what I mean. It was three parties, and Clinton didn't even win a majority or even come close.
Joram144 says, found you through Jeremy from the Quartering, been stuck ever since. We just had him on a couple days ago. Yeah, Jeremy's cool, dude. We had him in, I've known Jeremy for a bit. He's cool. Gone Fall says, about the Biden laptop. I saw a post about how the computer repairman closing shop and disappearing amid purported death threats. Your thoughts?
I did not hear that.
It's what we talked about earlier, man. It's the tactics that leftists use. So you have this judge issuing the injunction on the PA certification, and I'm saying, I think, Ian Miles Chong tweeted that judge is probably getting inundated with death threats right now. Right. Remember the judge who, the dude showed up to her house and shot her son?
Her son.
Shot her son and then, shot her husband and then took off or whatever.
Jeez.
Dressed like a FedEx guy. Man, it's like the movies. Crazy stuff.
Worse.
Demonic Sensation says, hey, Tim, Jack, and Lids, love the stream. If Trump somehow wins, any thoughts on him standing down and Pence taking over to calm the leftist storm? Not sure if it's possible, but an interesting thought. Hey, from Australia, by the way. I don't think that would calm anybody.
Pence would not calm the left at all.
Yeah, he's
far more conservative than
right.
Trump.
The joke, he's way more conservative. The joke was like, if you impeach Trump and convict him, you're gonna get Pence. Like, have you thought about that one?
Think ahead.
Let's see. Jarhead Steve says, if this continues, the bell ringers are going to have to do what we know to do. Semper Fi. Trent Lamalino says, we need to lead a movement to stop giving money to companies that are crooked. List of companies that are anti-America and lead a huge exodus. Boycott with money, not tweets.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. John Doe says, greetings. As a Muslim, I'm really happy to see 17 to 30% of us voted Trump. But I think Trump should have courted us with his Mideast peace policy. We heavily voted based on foreign policy, and I wish we would wake up. Happy Thanksgiving.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, the foreign policy was big for me, too.
Yeah.
It's a high number for Muslims. I didn't know
we
that.
know the good news now for the neocons and the warmongers is that with Joe Biden in place, rest assured, they'll be bombing kids in no time.
But we'll be nice about it.
Yeah, but he'll smile and wink at you and say, "Come on, man," and you'll go, "I can't be mad at
darn
you,
it,
Joe."
Joe.
Grandpa Joe, can I play with your leg hairs?
I know, right?
Ginger Prime says, hey, Tim, I'm another fence sitter and love the content. And honestly, that being said, I listen to Will of the People every day and want to know when we can get a video and professional version of Words in a Book. That song hits my heart and soul. I guess if at a certain point, so right now my main channel, my first channel I ever put together was youtube.com/Timcast. I do one segment. But it's the other channel where I do 5. If I wind that down to just 1 in the morning and then 1 at 4, I'll have tons of time I could record a whole album in a week. Because then, like, Nishra is the one who produced the song and did all the arrangement and everything. So I've got like 1,000 songs.
Do it.
I got some really simple poppy ones that people seem to like. They're really just simple pop rock. Maybe like indie-ish. Nine-Tailed Fox 1000 says, Tim, I am totally convinced the Dems stole the election. And if Trump told the American people to take up arms in his name, I would happily do so. That is a very similar comment that Reuters published. And I think it freaks me out. I don't like the idea. But I don't know what to say about it. Like, what do you do?
Yeah. I have no idea.
That sentiment won't go away.
It won't go away. I don't think Trump is going to ask anybody to do that. I'm pretty sure he's going to fight it as far as he can in the courts, and then that'll be that. Shadow government.
I don't know.
Come on.
I mean, something's going to happen. It's not going to be normal. Just that's the easiest way to put it. Whatever happens, we are not going back to the normal way things used to be. There's no such thing. It's not going to happen.
It's a new normal.
Joe Radler says, Tim, sell copies of those paintings of YouTubers you have on your studio walls. Of YouTubers? Can you switch to Ian's camera?
Here.
Even though he's not here? So the art you see on the screen is from G'85 on Twitter and Instagram. It's George Alexopoulos. We had him on the show last week. But it's not of YouTubers. It's just creepy art. It's really good. There's Joe Biden eating a small child. And he has a bunch of them. And you can check him out at G'85 on Instagram to see all the other art he has. But I don't know if he sells them, but I hit him up and said, dude, we got to get, full frame of these comics because they're amazing comics. We have one with Trump, Joe Rogan, and Joe Biden. Captain Spence says, we need to start protesting outside police departments, asking them not to enforce lockdowns. We must protect our liberty and rights to assemble. Well, protest as you see fit. I think the most powerful protest, nonviolent civil disobedience, is to just go about your life.
Go about your life. Living well is the best revenge.
But it's like, just go see your family. Like, be safe, But I can't believe they're like, don't go to Christmas and don't go to Thanksgiving. It's like, I think people love their families more than they're worried about getting sick.
Yeah.
And I think the bigger issue is that when Gavin Newsom and other Democrats flaunt the rule, like just disobey their own rules, nobody believes it's serious, and it's their fault.
They extinguished all credibility with their corona posture when they accepted and encouraged the protests and the riots this summer. And this public health officials came out and said racism is more of a public health issue than corona. Get out there and protest, everybody. That was the end of trust, period. If the financial crisis wasn't bad enough in 2008-9, where nobody got any penalties for the fleecing of the American economy and the stripping of the treasury, then this is the final straw. This disconnect between public statement and policy and then the private behavior of the officials who are supposed to enact it. And then just the public health officials saying racism is a more important issue.
Think about it this way. The left clearly already doesn't believe there's a rule of law. They say, we're locked down, don't do these things. They go out and do it anyway. They go riot and they go protest.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're rioting shows they don't care.
They don't care.
Then for the right, they're being told, we're going to destroy your businesses, your livelihoods. We're going to take away your jobs. And you can clearly see there's no rule of law because the left is smashing everything up. That's amazing to me. It's almost like we're in, I wonder if we're in a simulation and they're doing an experiment to see at what point conservatives just like lean back and then like, and just go back to work. Here's what's amazing. You actually have people rioting, being cut loose. The DAs let them go. And then conservatives can watch that happen and be like, but I'm not going to sell my T-shirts at my clothing store. It's like the levels of willingness to break the law on the left are just like off the charts, and conservatives are all the way at the bottom.
Okay, but it's important to remember that those Antifa activists and protesters and rioters that deliberately go out and put them, they know they're coached that they can get arrested and that they have a defense fund and they have people that are getting them out on bail. There's a system that facilitates that. So it's not necessarily about like, how bold are we? Is there an ecosystem with appointed judges and DAs and the whole thing where they know that they're going to be okay?
Sure, but imagine if the scale was they would sell donuts at a donut shop versus a conservative selling donuts at a donut shop. That's when you're equal.
Yeah.
And them being like, I know I can get away with it, you'd be like, well, they're just selling donuts. No, they've stepped it up to, they've turned the knob up to 11.
Yeah.
So they know they can get away with not just breaking COVID lockdown, but literally burning down buildings. Okay, they can't really get away with that. They are getting charged and arrested for that. But they can partake in these riots and likely will get away with it. And then on the right, they're like, I know that if I open my store, they will throw the book at me and there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, unless there was enough of us. If we had like a day, what is the opposite of a strike? That's what we need. Wow. We need the opposite of a strike. A work-in. I have come up with a brilliant idea. A national work-in day.
I love it.
And the opposite of a strike, the anti-strike.
An anti-strike.
Yeah.
Everybody go to work.
Yeah. Go to restaurants, go to work, go to the gym, go see your family, get outside.
Go to church. Yeah, absolutely.
Go to church. Just do it. We would overwhelm the system. There's no way they would be able to enforce it. And then we could have
That's the point of nonviolent civil disobedience.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it. The anti-strike.
Well, you got to...
We'll make it happen.
Someone's got to organize it, so that's what the right lacks: organizational power. The left has it in spades. Tom Me says, I might be wrong, but Trump is treading water. Biden will get wrecked if he eventually or actually wins. What do you mean by that? Like Trump is just treading water, like he's not trying hard enough, like he could do more, or he's struggling to stay afloat?
Maybe he's saying that he thinks Trump is just biding his time because he knows he's going to be victorious. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't either, but there is a belief that Trump, I've said this before, it seems like Trump's buying time. Like a lot of these lawsuits seem aimless, like he's just buying time for some reason. No idea. It could be that they're just trying to slow things down and slowly wind things down so that his supporters calm down and then get past it. If they announced like the election, boom, one day, and then Trump conceded, people would go nuts. So it's like everything's winding down really slowly to keep the temperature down. I tell you this, if Trump does end up conceding at some point, it's going to be on like a Friday at midnight. He's going to tweet something out. Then everyone's already in bed. It's a weekend. They wake up on Saturday. They don't pay attention to the news. And then it'll be like, oh, yeah, Trump conceded last week. And they'll be like, oh, really? They always do it like that. They always make big announcements.
That's when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died.
Yeah.
Died.
Yeah. But also, they announced Joe Biden on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
So it's a weekend. People aren't paying attention to the news. And then they're like, oh, here it is. We announce it.
Oh, yeah.
So, let's see. Joshua Cherkinsky says, if you want to know more about Operation Warp Speed, you should reach out to Jose Arrieta, former CIO of HHS and led data team on COVID task force. He's absolutely brilliant, and he has been asked by several news outlets for interviews. Cool. Sporkwitch says, it's not a conspiracy. The left is promoting pedos. Big story with ASDA having to take down material promoting love knows no age limit and other pedo propaganda. That is not an isolated incident. It is found throughout social justice. Like I mentioned, I think it was Snapchat. I could be wrong. Don't sue me, Snapchat. But there was a filter that said love knows no age. And that's weird. Very weird. Matt Morgan says, combat vet here. After seeing Afghanistan, I hope we can avoid armed conflict, but not at the expense of our rights and Constitution. Thank you/Lydia for giving us politically homeless a voice. Much love.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
Woot.
Joel Stein says, Biden et al. Are being super smug about everything. You think behind closed doors they're a bit worried about the situation? Probably some clenched sphincters hoping Trump concedes. Ernesto Jimenez says, did Tim not do his afternoon shows? It is correct. I did not do them, and I won't be doing them tomorrow either. And then we're going to sort through, how things are going to flow out in the future, because we got this new skate park built, and definitely want to have events. We have a bunch of stuff ready for cultural stuff. I'll put it this way. You know what I think is not necessarily helping? Sitting down and saying, like, did you see this thing today? How dumb was that? Because at a certain point, people are like, I feel this way. I'm like, how many times have I said, oh, they're rioting again and getting away with it? Instead of doing something that makes a difference.
Yes.
So I'm not a protest organizer, but we're going to put on events.
Yeah.
And we're going to help build culture,
Yeah.
generate culture, art. So, one of the biggest problems the new right has? Terrible art. But the right has always had terrible art. Here's the greatest advantage conservatives have right now. We have a general agreement on fundamental principles in freedom of speech and individual liberty and, the foundation of this country, the Constitution, et cetera. So even though I am left-leaning independent, left on a lot of economic policy issues and pro-choice and stuff like that, I agree more on a ton of issues that are fundamental to the existence of this country with conservatives. And now people like me and other artists are now finding themselves being, on the right, or being told they are, even if they don't agree with the right on every issue. And now the right is starting to get cultural victories. So Trump was a cultural victory. It was the meme war. All those memes and jokes and internet culture really helped propel him to victory.
Yeah.
Now you're going to find, I did that music video. And it's really funny because there are a lot of people who hate me who are like, this is actually good. Some people are saying like, man, I hate this guy, but he kind of pulled it off. A lot of haters saying I expect it to be like super cringe, but it's actually kind of good.
Agreed.
People like it.
It's interesting that you're talking about doing stuff with the culture right now, because part of the reason I think that Daily Wire moved to Nashville was because they wanted to expand into the culture.
Yep.
And people like Andrew Klavan who write novels, people like Sean Parnell who write novels, they're a big part of the culture war too. I think that's significant. Hopefully we get better movies too.
You want to know something crazy?
What?
There's a pro skater who got asked to promote a brand, and the brand did something critical race theory-ish.
Ugh.
And all of the comments from this person's followers were Trump 2020, MAGA.
How funny.
And this dude, he's like early 20 pro skater, was super confused, like, what's going on? Like, I'm getting flooded with all this MAGA stuff. And then the brand asked him to take it down.
Jeez.
And he was like, I got no idea, man. He's super confused. So one of the older guys in the industry who was a Trump supporter, skateboarder, pro skater, grows up, and now he's like, this is why, Trump had to explain to him what was going on. So I just think you've got a lot of people who follow skateboarding. There's a couple people I follow on skateboarding who have decent followings, and they're hardcore MAGA skateboarders. They're fearless, but it's because they've already been canceled for some reason or another. They had their sponsorships ended or something, so they're just like, I'm just gonna say it. But I'll tell you this, man. There's a guy named Brandon Turner, and he's he's a legend. He's a legend in skateboarding. When he was 18, he did a trick called a switch hard flip down something called the Carlsbad Gap. Basically means he jumped over this really big thing. It's like jumping down a flight of stairs, doing an extremely hard trick. And it was a big deal when he did it. The dude's 38 right now and did one of the most mind-blowing tricks. Again, a switch hard flip, that's what it's called. And he did it down something, a massive set of these huge 4 stairs, but they're like, it's ridiculously big. They're super long. It's not really stairs. It's called the Wallenberg Gap. And the dude's almost 40. So anyway, I forgot where I was going with it. I had to bring it up, though, because it's like, I forgot my point. My point was typically that you don't have high-profile individuals. You don't have people who are making content that goes viral in cultural issues, like with popular music and with skateboarding, who are coming out and being straight up pro-Trump.
Right. Well, we're looking at creating children's cartoons, actually, like 1 to 3 minute cartoons.
Didn't Lauren Southern make a children's book?
I have no idea.
I think she did. Did she?
Maybe I'm
thinking of somebody else.
You're hallucinating.
We're looking at that. We're looking at other ways to influence culture like that and to
Awesome.
spread the values out there in the world
I
today,
like the
for
idea of having
sure.
kids.
Yeah, and Tim, you're talking about getting out of politics and focus on making change and adding to culture and doing something fun and interesting. That's what I decided to do 2 years ago, and I spend most of my time engaged with the guys in the liminal order and just doing our programming there and actually being a force for good and actually being a force for positive change rather than just droning on, no
Right.
offense to me or to you or to any of us, about politics all day long. You said it best. You're like, how many more times can I say, hey, the Democrats did this and it's wrong? It's stupid.
I know. So at a certain point, it's like, I'm gonna keep doing it, but we're gonna make space to be like, we're gonna be hanging out. Someone's gonna roll up, and I'm gonna be like, dude, if you want this new set of wheels, I gotta see some flip and flip out, man. I want to see nollie flip backside tail slide. I'll tell you what, I'll throw in some bone Swiss if you big spin out. Most people probably have no idea what you
Your
just
mom's a big spin out.
said. I have no idea what Tim just said. But the point is, imagine they do that, and we got a Gadsden flag on the wall.
Right.
There's a really good skateboarder named Cody McIntyre. He's one of the craziest tricks I've ever seen on a mini ramp. You're not going to understand any word. A lot of you might understand this if you skate. This dude, I watched this video on Instagram. He does a forward flip blunt, kick flip out. But he's got "Don't Tread on Me" on his mini ramp.
That's a product placement for conservative ideas.
Not even just freedom.
I know, right?
It's like
wow,
the "Don't Tread on Me" flag is like the real anti-fascist statement.
right?
Yep, the
What-
OG.
What about this one? Join or die.
That's the opposite. Lauren Southern did write a children's book, Henry the Sheepdog and the Wolf of Mossville.
There is a good children's book out there. Let me remember the name. My Red Hat. Look that up.
Interesting.
My Red Hat was written by a MAGA aware gentleman for young children to learn the stories of bullying and discrimination, etc. My Red Hat.
You know what's a really good example of why this needs to happen? Because Casey Neistat, I think he's a cool dude. I've known him for quite a bit. I think he's all right, but he endorsed Hillary Clinton. And I think he didn't know anything about Hillary Clinton. And he actually said he knew the Trump family, that they were very nice. But he made a video endorsing Hillary Clinton and later on came to regret it. Most people who are producing cultural content, vlogs, skateboarding, don't know anything about what's going on in the world. And so somebody comes along and says, we're a super PAC. We'll pay you X amount of dollars to promote our candidate. They go, oh, that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And they don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, you come to me and say, Michael Bloomberg wants to run. He's going to pay you $1 million to do a video for him. I'm going to be like, never going to happen. I'll tell you what, you give me no stipulations as to what the video is about. I'll make a video about Michael Bloomberg. And then I'll make an hour-long documentary about how awful he is. But they wouldn't do it. They're like, no, promote him, endorse him. It's never going to happen. That being said, I do videos on YouTube, and then his videos get placed on my videos by YouTube.
Funny.
But that's great. That's great. I do a video saying, here's why Michael Bloomberg is awful. And then it's like the video that pops up, the advertisement I get paid is him being like, I'm Michael Bloomberg, vote for me. And then it's like the video stops. Here's why Michael Bloomberg is awful.
That's awesome.
So it's like you're getting corrected, as
So
it were.
anyway, here's why Michael Bloomberg sucks.
right.
yes.
He's paying you to say it.
Exactly.
Just like that whole Count Dankula thing that just played out. Did you see that?
No, which one?
Count Dankula was being sued for libel or defamation.
You mean Sargon?
Oh, Sargon. Was it Sargon?
Sargon got sued for copyright infringement?
Oh.
Is that
No,
what you're talking-
no, there was just a libel case that was just settled, and some chick sued him, was going ape about it. They just kept going. The judge kept saying, "Don't do it." They finally got.
I think you're talking about Sargon.
Am I? Did I get this
And
confused?
Aquila, yeah.
Yeah,
she talks
yeah.
so much.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Sargon of Akkad, well, let me start over. Because it starts with Aquila. Aquila filmed what was going on election night in 2016. And so then Sargon took segments of her full video and then titled it SJW Levels of Awareness. She then tried getting it taken down for copyright. YouTube did. Sargon challenged it, saying it's fair use. It's commentary. A bunch of people told Sargon he was wrong. They said, dude, you just uploaded straight clips. You didn't comment on it at all. You just showed the clips. Sargon was really smart. You know what he did? He said nothing. He said, don't worry about it. And so when she finally sued to get taken down, he knew what he was talking about. The title of the video was commentary and criticism. You can show someone's video raw as it is on their channel and then put the title, and it is fair use. By showing her video and titling it SJW levels of awareness, it was apparent to everybody, the judge, even Akila's own lawyers, who for some reason she changed lawyers. I can only imagine it's because they knew you're going to lose. But they even said in their, like, one of their initial filings that the only reason he uploaded the video was to make fun of or like disparage. And so the judge was like, you acknowledge this was criticism? Like, that's quintessential fair use. She decided to go forward anyway. And what they think it was, what is it called? Ad terrorum, I think it is.
I think so.
It's when you sue someone knowing that they can't fight back, so they're going to cave and give you whatever you want.
Yeah, to terror, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what someone had referred to it as. But Sargon raised money, defended himself because he knew he was going to win. And she sent him an email. I could be wrong about this, but I believe she sent an email saying like they wanted to settle for 40 grand. And so he just was like, no, thank you. He just won. He didn't just win, but he won his court fees. Not only did he win the case, it is fair use. He then sued for court fees to be paid back because she was on Twitter gloating that she was trying to take him for all he's worth and like, you
Attack
know,
his kids.
bankrupt him and stuff
My
and
goodness.
mocking his family. And so I guess the judge said this is not a good faith copyright suit. This was meant to drum up, you know, celebrity or something like that. I think that's what happened. And then she just recently paid him out.
Yeah,
But she raised all the money on GoFundMe.
Exactly.
And I'll say this, my understanding of what she wrote, she like, it was libelous. It was like intense, lying about the judge. But you know what, man? The right doesn't start the fights. The Proud Boys don't go out and start the fights. The Proud Boys will go to a rally, and when Antifa shows up, the fight starts. In that context, the Proud Boys might start a fight. I'm like, I don't know, you know, it's Sargon's business, but she wrote this GoFundMe raising money with lies, and that's fraud.
Yeah, this seemed to have been resolved, at least the legal fees resolved recently by her doing a GoFundMe, which means her fans are paying Sargon. And I just read about that today, which is what I meant when you brought up Sargon earlier. I was like, oh yeah, that thing that just happened in the news. So you threw me for a loop there, but we're on point now.
We got too many super chats coming in. I'm trying to
blazing.
Yeah, trying to read as many as we can. Ben Jordan says, love Will of the People, Tim. Can't stop listening to it. If you haven't, check out Will of the People. You can just search Timcast Will of the People, and you can listen if you haven't. And share it. Because, I mean, that's like, I'm going to do maybe a marketing thing to boost the song just because I can, and I think it'd be fun. Why not? But it's going through the process to go up on Spotify and other, like, you know, Amazon stuff. So that'll happen at some point. But you can check it out. And you know what we'll do at the end of the show? We'll play it for y'all so you can watch it here and then, you know, check it out later. Let's see. Waffle Sensei says, the Timcast IRL should naturally fill some of the void left from the Joe Rogan experience. Yep. Mankind needs shows like these. Thank you for your voluntary service to talking about your feelings on the internet, and happy Thanksgiving. Well,
happy Thanksgiving to you too, sir.
Yeah, for sure.
Joe's not going anywhere. He's doing his show. It's on Spotify. So just, you can watch the videos.
Spotify.
And yeah. So I think there's going to be, he's still doing clips. They're still going to be on YouTube. So you're still going to see his content, but you know, whatever. Matthew Sprigg says, Alex Jones plus Cenk Uygur and Steven Crowder. What? We would break the internet.
Yeah, it wouldn't work.
But you know, the thing is, Cenk wouldn't do it. That's the problem. It's like, if we got a high profile leftist and Alex Jones, it would be one of the biggest political podcasts ever. The leftists just never want to do it. I asked, I think five leftists to come on with Alex Jones. They all said no.
They know all about canceling.
Well, I'm sorry. A couple just ignored me outright. And then, you know, whatever. After the fact, issued a comment saying, COVID, I can't do it. Let's see. Ryu Kirito says, apparently Andrew Jackson made his own party when the presidency was allegedly stolen from him, and they voted Democrat for the next 100 years.
Whoa.
The Jacksonian Democrats. I think Trump may do the same. I don't see how, I think Trump took over the GOP, and I don't see how Republicans move on. They can't just, people are going to be, are pissed. They're saying don't vote Republican because the GOP abandoned Trump. Jimmy Rustler says, Tim, have you caught wind of the Black Rifle Coffee S show? True colors being revealed. Do you see this with Black Rifle?
It has something to do with Kyle Rittenhouse in support of him or not.
Yes.
Well, so I kind of feel like, you just break a pen?
I did.
Doesn't know his own
I kind of feel like Black Rifle's too scared to say they support Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
Really?
So, yeah.
I disagree.
Why? What do you mean?
I don't think it's good policy. I'm going to say my piece. This is my hill to die on, okay? I don't think it's good policy for any company to give any form of support for anyone like Kyle Rittenhouse, whether you like him or not. And I'm going to get crucified for this.
And by you mean someone who is on trial for murder?
Exactly. Someone who's on trial, someone who's politically
I understand
hot,
that.
Someone who's a hot potato. Why would you support
They said
that?
they don't want to be seen as profiting off of that whole situation.
That's fair.
I respect that 100%. But I think what's happening is people expect them to say, of course we support him. He was defending himself.
Right.
And I don't, they're like, we don't want to say that. It's going to, it's going to be bad for us.
Adjust your expectations.
Yeah. It's going to look like they're trying to make
reasonable.
money off of it.
Right.
So that's basically what happened. The media put up some fake news or whatever.
Fake news.
Logan Matthews says, Tom Clancy should sue the pandemic for plagiarism. Division and Division 2 are like a prophetic vision of 2020 and the fallout after. Also, plagiarism is a funny-looking word. Just notice that while you were typing it out.
It happens to us.
Words are cool.
The game's not identical. Utopia is the creepy show because they filmed that pre-COVID. Utopia was filmed before COVID happened, and it is a show about a wealthy SJW who fakes a pandemic so that the FDA forces through a vaccine at the last minute at the demand of the people, and then it sterilizes everybody.
I want to read the book or see the British version.
The original British version is creepy and weird. It has great music and great cinematography. I
heard it's better.
Gotta watch it.
Better.
So at the end of this SJW one, is there one class of people that is spared from the disease that comes through the vaccine that sterilizes folks?
I don't think so.
Because in the original one, the guy plans to erase everybody except his particular genetic line.
Well, we only watched the first season, and that wasn't mentioned yet.
Well, so the British one has 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And the US one has the 1 season right now that just came out.
So good. Watch the British one.
Okay.
I gotta say, I'm not a fan of the. It's interesting to watch because of the parallels, but it's kind of not a good show.
I really like
I
the
imagine
idea.
that. It sounds stupid.
Yeah.
Sounds stupid. The other one is right up your alley, dude. Graphic artists and graphic novels and like hidden messages and like, secret internet chat rooms.
Yeah. That was in this newer version as well. I kind of like that. I like some of the text.
All right.
Secret internet chat.
Here's the perfect super chat. D Steve says, "Yo Tim Dog, love and appreciate your work, man. Thank you for what you do. And who's the dude in the beard? I want to follow him. He seems pretty metal."
Lit. My name is Jack Murphy. You can find me at Jack Murphy Live on Twitter and on YouTube. Go there, subscribe. Let's get me to 30,000. We're almost there.
Oh, sweet.
Almost there. Jack Murphy Live on YouTube. Check it out, man.
And Twitter, right?
And Twitter, Jack Murphy Live.
Very metal indeed.
Jack
And
Murphy
Parler?
Live everywhere.
Are you on Parler?
There's a long story with me
Yeah,
in
I know the
Parler.
Parler
We'll get into
story.
it another day. Instagram, Facebook, everywhere at Jack Murphy Live. I planned it that way. It worked out. It's easy to find me. Do it.
Safety Off says, "Bro, if you follow through with events/culture, you, Jack, and team could literally be the catalyst to save this nation.
Yes.
We all need guidance on how to organize and be heard as high levels are being excommunicated from society." Oh, we're gonna have comedy shows here.
Definitely.
We're gonna film them,
Oh, that'll
and
be
the
fun.
jokes are gonna be offensive comedy. It's like I was watching Family Guy the other day. Probably the most racist thing I have seen in a very long time was their episode where the Griffins are like running from the cops. And so they go to Chinatown, and then it was like the whole episode was just like making fun of Asian people. And I'm like, I thought it was funny, but it was like, wow, it was crazy. Like watching the whole episode. Like there's one part where it's like you're watching CBS Chinatown, and the CBS eye turns and slants.
Oh gosh.
I was wow, like that's airing on TV right now in these days,
Yeah.
Current year.
South Park gets a pass on that too. Shitty walk.
But they South Park lost their teeth a while ago.
You think so?
Absolutely.
I thought last season was pretty good.
It seems like they're trying not to push too hard. Like they're making fun of PC Principal, but they're not making fun of him enough. Like they're not really making fun of him. So it's like the PC babies. It's kind of like, what's the joke? I don't know. Like I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. You like they used to be totally gruesome. Like the episode where the kid eats his own parents.
Scott Tenorman.
Yeah, Scott Tenorman.
There's a lot of good episodes.
Yeah, South Park's got a storied history and great episodes though. But
100%.
yeah, I wonder if at a certain point there's phoning it in.
Well, I
They
mean,
could.
they're not putting out any new material right now. This is
Yeah.
the time where they usually do. I was waiting for their new season. They put out one episode, one special. With Randy having sex with the bat in China with Mickey Mouse. Him and Mickey Mouse gangbanging. Can I say
Oh,
that? It's
goodness
a little late in the show,
gracious.
maybe.
Happy Thanksgiving,
A
everybody.
little late in the show.
Hope everyone's gone to bed. All the kids have gone to bed.
Can I say that?
Oh, you already did. Whatever.
Dunsky.
So we got Anton Maxon says, before COVID, I was an aspiring actor attending the NY Performing Arts Academy. I'm working on many scripts. Now when I write, my emotions take over and it transforms into this weird abstract thing. May I send you first edits via Wix? I like your input. Yes, that is the appropriate place to send stuff. Let's see. Brian Brown says, I have been watching your other channels for a while, but first time watching a stream. Love your content. Sincerely, PDX Trump supporter. Appreciate it. Stay safe out there, PDX. Doobie McNasty says, Jack M.F. Murphy.
What's up, Doobie?
Vosh 1985 says, the division is based off of Operation Dark Winter. Look it up. Wait, what?
I don't know.
Is that?
We gotta look it up.
No.
Operation Dark Winter. Sorry, my phone
Can you
died.
look
I
at-
can't look it up. You gotta look it up.
Joe
for
Biden
us.
said there was going to be a dark winter.
Dark winter.
He did indeed.
Long winter.
What is Operation Dark Winter?
I'm very curious now. I'm sorry.
Alexa.
My phone died.
Stop. We actually have one. You're going to...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're going to turn around. What is Operation... Whoa, this is real. Operation Dark Winter. Wait, what? Let me pull this up.
All right, we're gonna look at this. We're gonna learn about this real fast before we sign off.
So, the division is about a pandemic destroying New York, and then you go into to like fix everything.
June 22nd,
Operation Dark
2001.
Winter was the code name for a senior level bioterror attack simulation conducted on June 22nd and 23rd, 2001.
Before 9/11.
It was designed to carry out a mock version of a covert and widespread smallpox attack on the U.S. Tara O'Toole and Thomas Inglesby of the Johns Hopkins Center for Civilian Biodefense Strategies, Center for Strategic and International Studies, and Randy Larson and Mark Demir of Analytic Services were the principal designers, authors, and controllers of the Dark Winter project. They say, Dark Winter was focused on evaluating the inadequacies of a national emergency response during the use of a biological weapon against the American populace. The exercise was intended to establish preventative measures and response strategies by increasing governmental and public awareness of the magnitude and potential of such a threat posed by biological weapons. And then basically in the game, some dude steals it, some virus releases it, and then the government declares the president enacts Directive 51, which gives him total control, and then you come in to try and fix everything. But let me see some more quick.
That would have been a good thing for Trump to do had he been a real fascist. Good opportunity. Didn't do it.
From Healthline, the U.S. is likely headed for a dark winter.
There it is.
What?
Former Vice President Joe Biden stated that we are likely to have a dark winter with COVID-19. Joe, what are you doing?
He was briefed on that practice.
I wonder if
In his mind.
Joe Biden, they were like, say something crazy that will make all the conspiracy theorists go insane. say it's going to be a dark winter, and then they'll look it up and they'll be like, what's Operation Dark Winter? And then they'll freak out. There you go, man.
Directive 51 coming at you. Just kidding. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, anyway, we went a little over today because I don't know, whatever. It was fun.
It was
Jack,
fun.
Thanks for hanging out,
Tim,
Jack.
my pleasure. Glad to be here anytime. Lids.
Thank
Yeah,
you. We
absolutely.
are not having shows. We have no show tomorrow night. It's Thanksgiving. Hang out with your family, and nothing for Black Friday either. So we'll be back the Monday after this weekend. But I'm taking tomorrow off for my show too, just to have a Thanksgiving to myself, and then I think I should be back by Friday. I might put something out tomorrow. I just depends on because I don't want to be bored. If I'm bored, I'm gonna be like,
there you go.
I'll do something. No, I'm probably gonna just keep skating and trying to get. We're installing new lights, and there's a lot of work that has to go down in the new building. So, I think culture is gonna be very, very important, and having that space where cool things happen. We want to make younger people feel excited and energized by good ideas. And the way you do that is you create a space where people are comfortable, cool, confident, and these kids aspire to be welcomed and accepted and accomplish these things and stuff like that. So kind of the goal.
Indeed.
Right on.
Support that 100%.
Do you want to shout out your channels one more time?
I would like to do that. Thanks for having me. Jack Murphy Live on YouTube, Jack Murphy Live on Twitter, jackmurphylive.com as well. Podcast long form with some interviews mixed in. Follow me. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me, guys.
And you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Parler at Timcast. My other channels are youtube.com/Timcast and youtube.com/TimcastNews. Of course, if you haven't, go to iTunes and subscribe to this podcast there and all other podcast platforms. But it does help when people, give us a good rating and all that stuff. Or if you're listening on the podcast, give us a good rating. And greatly appreciate it. So we'll be back on Monday at 8 p.m. live. So make sure you hang out with your family and have a good time. Of course, you can follow at Sour Patch Lids.
You can. Sour Patch Lids, LYDS.
And I believe Ian will be back on Monday as well.
I'm hoping so, yeah.
We'll be back into the full swing of things. But the holidays are always so rough to work through because nobody wants to work. Like New Year's is coming, but I wonder what's going to happen now with this lockdown. What are people going to do for New Year's? No New Year's Eve in New York.
Watch some YouTubes.
I guess so.
New York time. No Times Square. Huh?
Yep. They'll drop the ball and no one will be there.
Dang.
It's like a Black Mirror episode.
It is.
All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out.
On
We will
that
see
note,
you all Monday at 8 p.m. live. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.